yeah, I don't know. My computer, I opened it up and I let it sit for a couple minutes, and it was just like, we're chilling.
He's not fucking with you.
We ain't about that action this morning. So you see, LaMelo?
Yeah, dropped like 34 last night.
I watched a little bit of it, and I was just like,
dude,
damn
he's the truth. You know this? That was no, yesterday was his third start, but you know that he's been he leads all rookies in every statistical category, and he's only been playing half the minutes that they play.
Yeah, I knew he was better than Lonzo, but he's like, he might be like a superstar.
Yeah, and I was about to say, yeah, he's on that. He's gonna be on that level. He's gonna be a franchise player there for sure. Like, I feel like he's someone that they can really build a team around.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a cute ball player, and I mean, like, his jump shot is his probably his biggest weakness, and like, you know, is still decent, and like that'll just get better as he progresses.
Dude, I don't know how. Well, obviously, I've never really seen Jello in this setting, but I mean, Lonzo too. Like, the ball skills that they have, I thought Lonzo could pass the ball pretty well, especially when he played the Lakers. But LaMelo's passes, dude, are, I mean, he's like, I don't, out of respect for what LeBron James has done consistently over the years, I'm not gonna say he's a better passer than LeBron James, but like, his passes are like essentially that already, and I'm like, sheesh.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, like, some people try to get cute with it, like I feel like Chris Paul can get that way where he tries to get too cute with stuff, with passes and shit, but like, LeBron just makes it's not only like good passes, it's just the right play. And so, like, to be able to see it and do it consistently it's impressive for sure.
Absolutely. And he on another level too, since we mentioned him, man. He's shooting what, like 40% from, like 41 or something for like from three. Like, okay, so you just turned into Steph Curry overnight?
Doing his stare at the
dude,
ball.
The ugliest shot ever. And no, like, dude, me and him would have to fight. Like, to me, that's the most disrespectful thing. Like, you're guarding me, and he might as well just be like, I'm about to shoot this three in your face. He'd be like, I'm like, God dang, bro.
And just does like a jab step, looks at the ball, and then just his jump, he already like fade away low key with it. Oh, dude.
And no one ever like blocks it. I'm like, come on, y'all tall motherfucker. Like, he's telling you, like, I'm about to shoot this shit.
Yeah,
you know what? I literally, because I just found out like a day or two ago. I was looking at it, I'm like, why is this not like, why can't they stop it? And instead of like if someone were just to meet him there and not to like take that first as he like turns his body, they'd probably get it. But like in that 10th of a second, like, you're not, like, you're reacting, right? You know, you're not like, oh shit. You just try not to get blown past and dunked on by LeBron. So, like,
I don't know. I feel like you're giving him too much credit, but
the only reason I say that is because he hasn't always had that move. And I remember a few years ago when he was saying like he was like trying to work on his shot or whatever, and that's when he started adding that. And I'm like, that it's such a he doesn't like it's such a weird.
I think it's a rhythm thing.
I does like, for sure put him in a rhythm too. Yeah, 100%.
But like, it's it's almost like a free throw. Like, the reason you do the same, like same, what do you call it? Whatever, 3 bounces.
Sequence. Yep.
Yeah. The reason you do the same sequence with a free throw is because you like train your body to do the same thing, and so it like gets it in rhythm by doing the same thing. And so I feel like that, I do similar stuff when I shoot. Like, I'm I don't know, like if I'm moving to my left, I'm left-handed. If I'm moving to my left, I can shoot like off of moving to the left and still be straight, just because I've done the like JJ Redick fade away 3-point for like, so long on the playground, like that I've just been able to get used to now. I break half of them, but probably more than that. But I feel like it's the same thing there, where it's just like, it's like getting a pass and going right up. I feel like that's why he does it. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, they are.
Either way,
he's unstoppable now because he hasn't really lost a step. So the fact that you have to literally respect his three now.
Yeah.
And I saw a stat too that actually this was before this season, that he actually had made the most like logo threes of any current players, even though we think of like Dame Lillard and like stuff like that, or had made the most. Yeah. Now, obviously, he's not probably shooting as many as Steph and Dame, but I mean, he'd be pulling up from places now too. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm not even gonna entertain coming down here.
And then just split gack, straight split gack.
I like, if he continues that, they'll win another 3 championships in a row, because
their team is nasty.
Yeah, they're defensively solid, but they're too big as well. So if you can't like compress and wall up, and you have to go respect that, Anthony Davis is gonna murder you. Like Montrezl Harrell is gonna murder you on the inside. Like there's like
Marc Gasol.
Yeah, like it's over for you. Like if you have to go all the way out there and respect that.
Yeah, I mean the only way that you really have a chance to beat them is going just like Golden State Warriors and shooting like threes all game. But like, I think that they got Anthony Davis is a good enough athlete, like, to guard the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really what's like back when it was a like Miami Heat, tail end of Miami Heat and Cleveland versus the Golden State versus the Warriors. Like, what killed them wasn't the 3-point game. What killed them was transition layups that were just for free. And like they had, or really just any layups that were free. They didn't have like Kevin Love's soft ass, garbage ass, dog shit NBA player. Plays no D, only shoots threes.
Yeah.
God, dude, back in the day, I stand by this that they should not have traded Andrew Wiggins for him. I think they would have won at least 2 championships if they kept Wiggins instead of trading him to get Kevin Love. One, because his ass was hurt all the time, but Wiggins was actually like a dude that could play D.
Yeah, but LeBron hates rookies. So that was like, lose
Does
LeBron.
He really hate rookies, or just he just?
Yeah, if you look at when he goes to teams, and they've had a couple top picks, they always get traded away. Sexton, if you hear him talking in an interview, he likes getting players. He talks about who are like battle tested, right? That's why he'll go back and pick up the same like J.R. Smith. Like, I'm not literally hates them, but you know what I'm saying? Like
You don't think he can win with them?
Yeah, like
I feel like that's a narrative that gets pushed, but I just don't know.
I think he knows he could win, and this
because he kept Kuzma. He kept Kuzma in LA.
Well, so Kuzma's untouchable in the Lakers franchise. I don't think he wanted to. I think if he could have, he would have got another veteran. But Kuzma's untouchable in that franchise because for whatever reason, Jeannie Buss loves him and actually thinks that he's going to be the future of there. And so he's like literally untouchable for that. Like that's why they just gave him all that money again.
Gotcha.
that's like her, her centerpiece for the future, her security. So, but I don't think he thinks he can't necessarily win with him. And you may be able to relate this as well, because I know I do in multiple arenas. But it's like sometimes you're just like, the amount of work and pooling and molding I'm going to have to do with this unit in comparison if I just got these guys over here, and do I want to take that on with everything else that I'm taking on, And I think he tried it that first year, but I knew he was never going to keep those guys, right? With Alonzo and that team was way too young for him. I knew they were going to be gone.
Yeah. For me, I think it was just like those young dudes have more value in trades. And so like, I guess to me, it's more of a like talent ability thing than anything else. Like, I think that he recognizes more that, and like, his conversations and stuff with the GMs and whatnot. Like, I think he recognizes Lonzo's a good player, but I think at his best, he's like a sixth man, like, or not. He's like he's a solid starting point guard, like a role player. But, and then, like, who else do they have? Brandon Ingram, role player at best. Who was the other dude that they traded? Ingram, Lonzo,
Josh Hart.
Oh yeah, role like.
Yeah, they're all good. He talks. Yeah, I mean, he talks a lot about like, because the way, like you said, the way he plays basketball. Like Kobe could take that team, and they're going to like, but the way LeBron plays basketball, as he said, he's always going to make the right play. And so when you get into the heat of a series and he kicks it out over there to you, like I'm not banking on BI to fucking put a shot in. Josh, he doesn't like that. That's like I'm sure a nightmare for him. He wants like a Shane Battier, a Kevin, like he'll take those players where it's like, okay, this is what you do. Like I've seen this over and over before, and usually he goes against people who he's been in series with and seen them do it on the other team, and he's like, all right, come get a ring with me, over here. So
Yeah, I feel that. It's probably a combination of both. Because I truly like I look at those players and I think they ain't championship caliber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what he says too. Is it's like it's not that they're young, because I mean like Kyrie was young, Kuzma's young,
right? But
Kyrie's young.
But remember, when he came, Kyrie had a couple years, and Kyrie was like
a superstar.
Yeah, exactly. He was a superstar just with like a trash team. So I think that's different.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it comes down to if Lonzo Ball was dropping 30, 38 and 4 like LaMelo is, I feel like he would have pushed to keep him.
Yeah, it's also interesting too about I think the other thing is, like I said, it's the ego thing, I think, more than anything as well, where it's like how quickly can they mold, because Kuzma started to do that, but I think that's where they all struggle. And some of those players that got young players talked about that, like how and he knows this, right? LeBron knows what comes with him. Those players just recently, I saw it was maybe about a month ago, we're talking about the pressure, like Josh Hart and them, and just how like you're always in the media and they're always under the mic, like that's coming with, and like how can they block out that noise and stuff. I think that's just so hard for a younger player when like you can have a Danny Green who like is he's just gonna block it out because
despite the hate.
Right, exactly, because he's been around too long. He's been on it, and so he's like, I want a Danny Green, not Alonzo, who is going to be in his head, and like I don't know what I'm going to get from you today because you opened up Twitter, like
you opened up Twitter, exactly. Yeah, true. By the way, Danny Green is terrible. Like he used to be a decent defensive player. Now he's a liability on defense, and I feel like his shooting is.
Bro, but did you see when they played the Lakers? The man went for like 6 for 6 for 3.
I know.
Like,
bro. He got hot.
Like this always like anytime you just not on LeBron's team, you wanna make shots, huh?
Yeah. It's all good. They still got the chip.
Yeah, they did. You know what? The other thing I saw too is the worst franchise in this entire league is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just saw a graphic of like in the last 10 years, all of the players that they have like an all-star team 4 times over.
Their GM is like filthy. I don't know who is doing all the drafting, but like whoever that.
I mean, they had
needs,
everybody.
I mean, they drafted Durant, Harden. They pretty sure they drafted Westbrook.
Yep.
Like Ibaka.
Ibaka, yeah. Schroeder. Who's the dude with like the ponytail? He's on like Portland now or something. What was that graphic? I mean, I saw it. They had no, he's like a white dude. He's got like, or European dude. He's got a ponytail. They had Chris Paul at one point on that team as well. Yeah. Like there was like 28 some players, and they're just like all balling still. And then like, what did this Oklahoma City Thunder have to show for it? Nothing. I'm like,
nothing. I can't. I mean, like, I don't get the. If they were able to keep Durant, Harden, and Westbrook, like that team was a problem.
But the thing is, LeBron broke that up, man.
Yeah.
Beat down their souls.
That's for sure. Also, I love the 2 things. First thing is how for years everybody's like, "Oh, the East is trash. The East is trash. East is trash." There's no superstars in the East. LeBron just waltzes into the finals. Yep. This man goes to the West.
Everybody
goes to the fucking East. Every good team is in the East now. Dude, they run from his ass.
Literally,
it's legitimately a business decision. For every single one of them, it's a business decision.
Yes, bro. That was the best thing he's ever done for his legacy, I think, because that was a big thing. And like he went over there, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's done." And not only in the supposedly into his career did he go there, they were the number 1 seed. Like they're not like, "Oh, we're just like." They're straight up dominating over there. Yeah. And yes, everybody's like, yeah, let's go back over here so we don't have to see LeBron 4 times in the regular season.
Yeah. But then also get your ass knocked out. If you get him, whatever round you get him in, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, yeah, this is the graphic, bro. Cantor. Melo, Schroeder. Paul George, Chris Paul. I just sent this to you. I forget some of these people's names. OG. The other European dude, Oladipo.
Wow.
Like they had all of these dudes.
Paul George, Steven Adams. That dude's a dog.
Yeah, Steven Adams. That's the name.
Gallinari. Danilo Gallinari, Jeremy Grant.
Shoot.
Who is that? That dude, that tall dude from Michigan that could shoot. I forget his name.
Like, bro, that's a squad. Like,
yeah, that's a nice squad.
And you ain't got nothing to show for it.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it might just be the location for real. Like, I ain't trying to be in Oklahoma.
No cap. Can't blame you.
Giannis would. His dumbass. I think so. That first thing I wanted to say was how everybody ran away from LeBron. But the other thing that I wanted to say was, what do you think about Brooklyn with Kyrie, Harden, and Durant? Like, do you think they have a chance to? I personally, I don't think they got enough to hang with the Lakers. Yeah, that's assuming they run through the East.
Here's what I think about them in general. I think it's sad. because we've heard this narrative for so long that, again, oh yeah, LeBron, he always gotta go get some stars. He's like, he can't do it by himself, which, by the way, this league has not been a do it by yourself league in like 50
Team
something.
game.
Like,
Yeah.
like you need at least another, you need 2 all-stars, at least. And most teams that win the championship have 3.
Yeah.
And like LeBron was playing with like Solomon Hughes and Boobie Gibson and Ilgauskas. Like, where's his other star? Like,
Larry Hughes was the next best player, and that man was like 75 overall on 2K.
Exactly. Like, what's his name? Got Delonte West. Like, literally was like a bum like a month ago. Like, come on.
Was literally a bum.
like, come on, man. Like, this is ridiculous. But so I think that's funny because, like I said, that was the narrative, and then you go get Westbrook, Durant, who are just 2 of the like greatest scorers that the game has ever just seen in general. And then
Durant is crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
I think his mental's holding him back, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And the fact that boy apparently don't know what a weight room is.
Yeah, that too.
Like, bro, pick up a weight.
I know.
That's
I heard he like he chooses to like put more time into like shooting and shit and like getting his technique and shit with straight basketball, and doesn't like, he straight up refuses to work out.
Yeah,
weights and shit.
Yeah, he doesn't really like work out like with real weights. Yeah, I heard that too. Which
I'm just like,
so stupid. Low key is why you probably fucked yourself up with your injury.
Like, yeah, and that's the thing is like he gets injured. Like, it's
you can't be fucking a rail and like. But like, imagine it, and he can get inside because he is lengthy. But like, imagine if he was just Anthony Davis's size. I mean, Anthony Davis is not like huge for a 7-footer, but he's got some weight to throw.
In college, he was pretty similar to what Durant looks like.
Yep, exactly.
Same with Giannis. Giannis might even be closer than Anthony Davis. Like, I think Anthony Davis had a bigger shoulders and like a bigger frame. But Giannis had a little bigger frame, but like he hit them weights.
Yeah. You can see it in his off-season Instagram. Yeah, him and his brothers be about that weightlifting. So I think it's sad because I'm like,
but he could use some more time on that jump shot though, for sure.
Oh, Giannis? Yeah. Some more time? They don't need to let that man do anything but, like, he can't make a jump. Like, outside of dunking, the man, and blocking shots, the man is useless. Like, taking 8 and it's over.
I forget who I was talking to about this, but I said that he's basically like modern day Shaq. You know what I mean? Like, he's a freak athlete.
Mm-hmm.
No one's ever seen anything like it. He's so lengthy, tall, like athletic, the whole thing. But he's the like some of the more fundamental aspects of the game, he's not good enough. Like,
dude, even Shaq had like
mid-range his ass.
Yeah, that's what he can't like. But even Shaq developed like that little like right in like the circle, like that like kind of sky hook thing. Kind of developed that a little like something. He has nothing other than like they were talking about this like on a talk show I think like 2 weeks ago. He fouled out of a game. He's averaging like 4 fouls because they're charges. Like he offensive like he like just like tries to like run over. He doesn't have any like.
If he doesn't have enough room to do that Euro dunk.
Right. Exactly.
Then he's out of options.
I'm like, but yeah. So back to the Knicks. I think I'm like, that's funny that no one's talking about that narrative now, right? And I don't think
Shannon Sharp talks about it.
Yeah.
He's pretty much the only one.
Yeah, he's the only one because he's the only real like.
Yeah, he really is.
Him and Nick Wright, I'll give that to him.
Nick Wright, Nick Wright's solid.
I'm
just this quick tangent. I used to love that show with him and Chris Carter. And then Chris Carter, I don't know what I've heard like 10 different things. Somehow he fucked it up and like was asking for more money or something like that, and they fired him. And that show was trash afterwards. Like I used to love that show.
On now.
Yeah.
Because it's like Nick Wright and 3 other people. And the like moderator later. I'm like, that's way too many people.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it was just him and CC, that was good. But yeah, I think where they're going to have an issue is they're going to set records in scoring. I mean, they're averaging like 130, 40 points.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is they're still catching L's. They'll put up 148 and catch an L. Like you have to play defense at some point. Like,
yeah.
And I think in a 7-game series that
they can probably get a couple. But
yeah, I think they'll get 2, maybe 3, depending on, against the Lakers specifically. If the Lakers really play defense,
well, I think against the Lakers they can get a couple at most.
Yeah, I would say I don't know if they
get unless they like the Lakers. If the Lakers are on all cylinders, I give them 2 games at best.
Well, and here's the thing now. The Lakers have a really nice bench in rotation. And like and this is the first time. Well, yeah, they're defensively solid, obviously. So like that, you're not scoring 150 against them, right? Yeah. So that's already put the Brooklyn at a disadvantage. But then when LeBron wants to go sit down for 3 minutes,
right? Literally,
because that's all the man's gonna get.
3 real life minutes, not even game minutes.
When he guys did that in his before, if you look at the stats, like they'll like his teams, even when the Heat would just like lose lead, like go up 8 points, he sits down for like a minute, literally like an actual minute, and like they're down 2,
and they're down,
like a 10-2 run, and you're like,
and he got to come back out and
and
like take the game over again. Yeah.
Now, dude, you got THT and Caruso.
Yeah, what, dude? That man is a dog. What is up? Where did he come from? I know. And, dude, Montrezl Harrell is such a fucking monster, bro.
Yes.
He reminds me of Ben Wallace back in the day. You remember Ben Wallace on the Pistons?
That's it, yeah.
That dude was my favorite player growing up, bro. The Pistons was my team.
I think he can score better than Ben, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Ben just had inside stuff.
Yeah. Ben Wallace was like strictly a defensive player, but Montrez got offensive game. He's better than Ben Wallace. I'll just say that. On offense.
On offense, yeah.
On defense, Ben Wallace is like a Hall of Fame defensive player. But dude, growing up, I used to I wish I had like dreads and shit so I could get a fro like he did, but I couldn't do that, so I just had a headband, and he would have like wristband, and so my ass was like, Mom, I need this and this and that and this. She'd be like, why do you want all these fucking wristbands, you stupid kid? And I'm like, Ben Wallace. And so I would roll up in the, them little, what was the little leagues that we used to play in? I used to come in there with just like 14 wristbands on my arm, like a sleeve. And I'm like, and I thought I was Ben Wallace out there doing my shit.
That's so funny, bro. Because like kids don't wear that stuff anymore. But I really remember when we were growing up, all the players, like I remember I had a headband and they had like the wristbands, and you like nobody even uses sweatbands anymore.
I know.
That's hilarious. But yeah, dude, I don't. So
Harold's a dog.
They're averaging crazy amounts of like point. Like sometimes they go on runs while he sits down now, and it's like,
yeah.
Okay. Like the other day, they were like, I just saw this. The last 3 games of their like 14-day road stretch, where they were undefeated and then they lost 2 back-to-back. They tried this new lineup, and it was LeBron, Caruso, like THT, Kuzma, like some like, and that was like their winning formula of just
Kuzma and then Davis.
No, Davis was out, so maybe it was
really?
that was in. Yeah, because Davis sat out like one game or something on there, but like that, like they put that, and I'm like, that squad on paper, you should be like, oh, we're finna just like run on them, but no, like Caruso's a dog, like he's a dog, like
he's the like Dellavedova, but better,
way better,
and
he's really smart, dude. I think like he's got the prototype of like. He's got the prototype of like that, like scrappy white dude that you have to be. Yeah, like in the like in the NBA, like if you're that dude in the NBA, like you gotta like really. But he's like, I think what most of those guys miss half time is like they're not intelligent in the game as well. They just have like their one thing. It's just hustle, hustle, hustle. And he's like really smart too. And I'm like, damn.
He's nice for sure.
But yes, I don't think they'll fair. And like you said, it's honestly a stretch if they can make it out. I don't think they can handle the 76ers in 7 games. I don't think they'll make it. The 76ers are nice. The 76ers are the only team that I think can really give the Lakers a problem. And it's because Embiid is.
Remind me, do they still have? They just have Ben Simmons and Embiid?
No, they have Ben Simmons, Embiid, Danny Green, Rondo, Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, the other dude they got. I forgot about him.
He's solid, bro.
He's solid. Is he an all-star? I don't know.
He dropped that game winner against the Lakers with the like 2 seconds to like right in your face over Caruso's hand. Like, I mean, like
he's a nice ball player. I'm just saying, I don't know that he's like.
You don't need to be a superstar, right? If I have to worry about Embiid, who like when they played in the first quarter put up like 15 points, like god damn, like you know what I'm saying? And then we ain't got to worry about Ben Simmons shooting, but like he's another one that's coming in that we got to stop. And then you got Tobias Harris who can just sit out there. I mean, he averages like 15, 18, like that's tough, man.
Damn, really.
And Davis, for whatever reason, I think it's mental, runs from the big boys like that. Like he doesn't, to me, play well against Embiid.
Really?
On the defensive side.
Yeah, that's weak sauce.
And Embiid's big enough. Now Embiid's stamina is trash.
Yeah,
he is. But I think on the other side, Davis gets kind of tricked into taking some farther or trickier shots because he doesn't want to bang bodies with. I mean, and he said this, right? Like Davis is a 5, should be a 5, and he wants to be like a 2 or 3. Like he said that last year. Like if necessary, he's like, I don't really like playing the 5. If I have to, I'll do it for the team, in a series. And it's like, dude, you're a 5. Like embody that you're a 5. Like if I was your size, bro, I'm a 5. Like, come on, man.
Well, yeah. He's a unique situation because he was a
point.
What was he? He was like 6'1" or 6'2" in high school, wasn't he? And then like, I think, and even into college, I think, and then like his freshman year of college, he grew like 8 inches.
Yeah, he had like 2 growth spurts. So I just watched like his documentary on him like a couple months ago, right after they won the championship. He was like 6 feet in high school until his like junior.
And played point.
Yeah, and it was a point guard. And then he went away for summer and came back, and he was 6'6". Like he wasn't even on anybody's radar those years. He went to a tiny school, and then he was just like 6'6" that year, and they were like, and so he started being like a freak. And then went to Kentucky and grew like another 6 inches. like damn.
Wow.
Okay. But he played point guard that whole time.
So I feel like he's a unique situation because he's got skills like I feel like he should settle into a 3-4 position. He's really a 4. I think his skill set, it fits best at a 4. But like with the way the league is, 4s are now 5s. You know what I mean? So he's got to like.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got to embrace the mindset because that's what it really is, right? I mean, like LeBron can guard all 5 positions too, and it's not. I mean, LeBron is physically a freak, but I think he can hit the mindset of each player, right? And like I said, I don't think Davis, when he's in the 5, like again, you got to bang and you got to think like I'm a 5, and I don't think he does that. I think he's still like, I want to do my finesse stuff, and I think that works against most people because they can't handle him. But Embiid don't care about that. Like he will knock your little boy all the way over there.
Thankfully, I think Harold would happily step into that role. I feel like
Harold's getting 30 put over his head if he guards Embiid. like Harold's like 6'10".
I know MB is gonna be just like too small.
Yeah, I mean, I love his effort, but and that's, I mean, they definitely got you, right? You got to just keep putting bodies on him because his worst thing for him is his stamina. Yeah, but I was watching that game. I was down in Florida, and I'm like, all right, we may get blown out. This man just he put 15 up in 4 minutes in the first. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
And they got Doc Rivers now too. And I think that's what they were missing is that they didn't have a coach to come in and really
they had
get
Thibodeau before, is that
or something. I mean,
he's all right, but he ain't.
But they got a championship coach now, and Doc I think is trying to save his legacy right now because the Clippers again kind of screwed up his legacy. I mean, that man, I know he has that most respect for LeBron, but he has to also be sick of LeBron. Because if you remove LeBron from the equation, Doc Rivers may literally have 4 more. I mean, he's like Phil Jackson. You take out LeBron. Because the Celtics that LeBron just beat up on and broke them apart should have easily won another couple of rings. Then he went to the Clippers. Clippers had the people on paper to go win a ring, but LeBron.
Yeah. And also, but they personally, they had Chris Paul, who to me is kind of a flake. They had, and I his game. He's that dude. He's that dude on the playground that got all the talent, but is too self-centered and not team oriented enough. His game is nice. He can drop dimes and do all this shit, but if you miss a layup, he won't pass to you again. That kind of dude where it's man, just fuck all y'all. By the end of the game, it's just forget y'all. I'll do it, and then everyone's well, okay, whatever, fuck you, bro.
He said he's not gonna pass you the ball.
That's the vibe I get from Chris Paul. Is he's not. He's emotional.
I think he suffers from little man syndrome.
Yes.
And I'm saying he's taller than both of us because he's 6'1" or 6 feet or whatever technically.
6 foot.
Okay.
I hit that.
Which your Timberlands on?
I hit that extra couple inches when I hit college.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I have no idea. I haven't measured myself up since I was 16.
But he I see what you and that's how because he kind of plays like that sometimes to me where it's just
and I'm not saying it's exactly that, but that's the energy I get from him.
I know what you mean, and that's why I said it because the little man syndrome at some point is gonna it's kind of just look, I'm gonna do it. It's I get what you're saying. That's funny.
I meant to ask you last week, but we were talking about GameStop so heavy, and I had to dip. Were you in Florida for business or for pleasure?
No, just chilling, man. To get away from. So here's the story. I'm like you know, we hate this weather shit, this cold stuff that we got going on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Mexico and just chill. I never been, right? We were just gonna go to Mexico for the week. We got the baby a passport, and I'm like, this is dope. Rented this nice big ass house with its private pool and stuff. We had the chef coming to make us breakfast every morning, everything decked out. Rico Delco or something. I don't know, some private residence area with just like big ass mansions.
Okay.
I'll find the name and like shoot to you. And I'm like geeked. So we got this all planned out. And so we get there at 5 o'clock in the morning for our flight. And I'm trying to check in. And the guy's like, I'm like putting my ID over the scanner. And he's like, where's your passport? I'm like, oh, it's right here. He's like, that's an ID. I'm like, yeah, it's the real ID. He's like, no, but where's your passport? I'm like, this is it. Like, what do you mean? And he was like, no, you need a passport. And I'm like
the book passport thing?
Yeah. And I'm like, bro, I'm thoroughly confused right now because
I'm
for
thoroughly confused.
the last year, the BMV, like when I went to get my new license, they were like, do you want a real ID? And I'm like, what's the difference? And she was like, well, if you get the real ID, you're not going to need a passport to fly. And I'm like, bet. You're right. I'm like, cool, let's do that. Paid a little bit more, gave some extra couple documents. Yeah. They had to, it takes longer. It takes like 4 to 6 weeks, like a passport.
I did,
mail it to you.
I was gonna say I did the same thing.
So I'm like, bet. So me and my wife both did that. So I'm like, we got the passport. No, they've been marketing this all wrong. In October of this year, it was supposed to be last year, but with the pandemic, they pushed it back. In October of this year, our government is changing it to if you fly local, nationally, you're going to need a passport. What? And if you don't want to bring a passport, you need to get the real ID. So technically they're right in that, with this, you're not going to need a passport, but they should.
It's for domestic travel.
Right. Why that, like, up until now, I've never needed a passport for domestic travel. So I'm like, cool, I'm not going to need a passport. I can just go anywhere. So that ruined our trip because we technically didn't have passports then.
Wow.
But the documents that you provide for the real ID, as you know, are the same exact documents you provide for a passport. So I'm like, I'm like, whatever, dude. So we just sat in the parking garage and I'm like, I'm getting out of this cold. So we just booked another flight and we were supposed to go to Florida the following week anyway. So Mexico 1 week, Florida the next week. And I'm like, let's just go to Florida. Because, like, I'm not going and staying another week in the cold when I felt I was about to be in Mexico in 4 hours.
Yeah. And your bags is
right. So we just, like, went down there and hung out for 2 weeks. And she got to go to Disney World and stuff. So just escaping the cold. And then, of course, we came back to a fucking, like, 10-inch snowstorm. But
yeah. Damn, that is devastating.
Yeah, dude. I was so sad. Like,
That's
hit him up, bro.
That's so bizarre to me. Like, so what? I'm trying to think of what the purpose of. Is this just more like Patriot Act bullshit, where like they're like,
I literally can't understand why you would
interest of our security. They're making us like China.
I'm wondering if. Honestly, and I know it seems small because like the real ID is just like $20 more, but I'm wondering if somebody went, hey, $20 times however million people travel is going to be this much, and they're just like, it was like how we're going to make money in this area or for our department, whoever was like, because it doesn't make sense how, again, if I have an ID,
it's just it's your regular old license, like
right, yeah, like
ID.
Like, why would I need anything else to travel to like domestically? That's like. Basically what they're saying is if we just did, I'm in Indiana right now at my mother-in-law's house. If I drive from Ohio to Indiana, I should bring a passport with me because if the cops stop me, my ID is not enough. Like, like it doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the difference if I fly to Indiana or drive?
Well, and yes, exact that. But then also, like, what the whole there's no way that they'll be able to like implement that top down, like federal and then to all the states without some pushback. I feel like Texas is going to be like, fuck all that.
Well, I know federally because airline is regulated federally. That's why they were able to do it. Maybe that's why it's not local, but like it just doesn't make sense to me because, like I said, I don't. So you're telling me I need it I just don't understand it. Like internationally, passports make sense because your license virtually means nothing in another country, right? And so it's like, hey, this universal thing of we're all going to have passports, everyone can take it, and we have some type of record. So if you're in Mexico and I stop you, we can actually have some real identification on you. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But a passport here, and it makes no sense. It's irrelevant. Yeah. I don't understand at all.
Weird. Me either.
So we just chilled in Florida. And the reason
did you get any money back or anything on the? Or did you just take a fat L?
Well, I took half an L right now. I got insurance on the trip because I usually never do it, but I was like, it's an international trip. You never know what's going to happen. Wow. And I literally got it and purchased insurance. So I got the refund for the flights, which it was like, all right, we're going to Mexico. We're going to do it right. We did like first class tickets. So I got like $600 back on that. The tickets themselves were like another $1,800, I think. And so I had to like file an insurance claim, and it can take up to like 2, 3, 14 business days. So I haven't heard back. They should give me my money back on there. And then for the reservation, the concierge people that like helped me set it up were just like, there's usually like a cancellation fee, but they just waived it. So that was cool. So I'm like, nice. All right, cool.
Nice. So do you have a regular passport?
No, I had to get one.
Gotcha. I got mine when I went on a cruise 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we went all around like we hit like Cozumel and another city on the coast of Mexico. And then we also went to like Jamaica and things like that. And I don't think when you're on a cruise, I don't think you need a passport technically, but I just got it anyway in case some shit went down.
They do tell you to bring it. It's because it's like when they dock and you get off, like you're supposed to have one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to go on a cruise. I haven't done a cruise yet either. I've heard they're really fun.
Bro, we should do one together.
I'm down. Yeah.
There's the cruise line that I went on. Damn it, I forget what it's called. It's an Italian cruise line. I'm about to look it up. But that one I went on was dope. Like it was so nice.
Dude, when I'd never really seen one up close until a couple months ago. We went to Miami, a little bit before you went to Miami. No, probably a couple months before. And we were like on the highway and just saw like one was docked there because Miami is a popular like one where people will leave from. And I'm like,
MSC is the cruise line, by the way. MSC.
Oh, MSC. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, dude, this thing is bigger than life. Like those things are huge.
It's like a skyscraper, but like a New York skyscraper that they just like dump in the park.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, there's like an amusement park on that corner of it, and the amusement park looks tiny as shit.
It's hard to like until you see it like firsthand. You can't. I feel like that's the best way to describe it. It's a skyscraper dumped in the water.
Like obviously, I knew it had to be big, and you've seen it in videos, but like however big you think it is, if y'all ain't seen one in person yet, like I'm like, that thing is huge.
It's crazy.
Like you could get lost on that shit.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Like they may not find you for a week.
For sure. But yeah, we should talk and set that up. That would be dope.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to do one.
Maybe that's one of the things.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be fun. I want to do some more traveling now. I want to go to Jamaica, to the Bahamas.
I hit this one I was on. I hit Jamaica, Bahamas, Cayman Islands, Cozumel, some other city on the coast of Mexico. And there was one other place. Dominican, maybe Dominican Republic. I forget, but it was like a week-long thing, and we hit 6 stops, and it was like it was dope. I mean, it was cool to, because like I feel like a lot of people go and they just stay in the touristy areas. I kind of went in.
Right.
I went into the, which isn't like they kind of are like, now if you go in, like don't go too crazy because like your ass is white and they will take your shit.
Right.
But you know, I'm always down for a challenge, so I just was like, fuck it. I wanted to, you know, like I grew
You
up
want
in
to experience the real culture.
yeah. Like I'm all about the real culture, and so like I grew up around, you know, Black, Hispanic, you know, like African, the whole gamut. So like I like experiencing different cultures, and so I wanted to just get into it, and so it was dope. And there's a lot of nice people. Like I got like phone numbers and emails from people that I met just because I was like I went out past the touristy bullshit, you know, where it's basically like America right there, like, and so you know I made there's a couple that I met in the Cayman Islands that I still talk to, another couple from the Bahamas that I talk to, and so it's just like it's cool to like connect with people when you get past that all that tourist.
I know a dude that lives in the Cayman Islands that makes buku money, and
Really?
that's why he lives in the Cayman Islands. Yeah.
One thing that the Cayman Islands is fascinating to me because when I I've started to connect the dots since I went there, but one thing that I noticed when I went there was in the like main city, there's like all like just a bunch of buildings like your normal city and like, you know, not huge skyscrapers, but there's some like tall buildings and shit. And I'm walking around downtown and I'm like, oh, there's a bank and there's another bank and more banks. Every fucking building down here is a bank. And so like since then, you know, like Epstein supposedly had, you know, money and shit out here, which I'm sure everyone connected to him also had money in the Cayman Islands. And it's like and I'm sure, you know, tons of Wall Street people, you know, throw money up into offshore accounts. And then, you know, like Escobar apparently had banks with money at the camp. And so it's this weird like outsourcing sort of neutral place that people just throw money and it sits and for whatever, because apparently it's owned by England, I think, something like that.
Yeah, it's weird because
but anyway, it's like it's just these offshore accounts, and so it was like there was let's say there's 1,000 buildings in this city, 900 of them were banks, maybe more than that.
It's like basically my understanding of it is it's basically a place that was started by a bunch of rich people. It's like their version of their own country because what you're like, I think you're right that it's a British like territory. It's supposed kind of like Puerto Rico is supposed to be.
Yep.
You know, so it's not
US
really
territory.
like it's just like there's this thing out here and it's like made up of a couple islands and like they have because they have their own rules too. And so like one of them, the main one, like you said, are banking and taxes where they've got all this stuff where like that's why people go put money there because you basically the way it's set up, like you just like there's nothing a government outside of there can do to like take your funds or there's all these tax shits too.
Also, didn't you say that Puerto Rico is like one of the best places to start a business because there's like no taxes?
Yeah, I would say Puerto Rico did the same thing. Very similar. It's not the same as Cayman Islands, but tax wise, you basically they have like if you have to spend like 40% of your time there and have a home base there. But you get like 100% exemption on dividends from any like exports. Wow. And then it's only a fixed income tax rate of like 4%.
What?
Or corporate tax. Like, it doesn't matter what. It's fixed at like 4%. That's it. Like,
Jesus. Yeah, that's might have to move to Puerto Rico, boy.
I have a bunch of friends that live there and have moved there, and I want to do it. I think maybe at some. I think it could be fun because that's a nice area.
Just move, buy some property out there and like live there when it's cold as shit. There's my 40% of the year right there.
Yeah, I would say you literally just have to. Yeah, you have to spend, and it's not consecutive, but I think you have to spend 4 months, right? So 120 days or something there at least to like qualify for it, which who knows how they even track that. I'm sure most people finesse that too, but
yeah,
I mean, Puerto Rico's a pretty chill place. But yeah, I know a buddy that he's actually in the like financing space, so his company will get people, like help them fund businesses and stuff, and he'll get you like $100K at 0% interest and stuff like that. Yeah, and financing. So he moved his company there. I think he's probably got he's got to have 500 million assets under management. How much does he have? He's got a lot assets under management. So he'll do like bridge loans and stuff like that. Because they can fund it. But yeah, he moved out there for all the I don't know what all the tax stuff goes into that type of business, but he was out in like Utah or somewhere and was like, yeah, I'm going out here. So he's lived there for almost 2 years now. He said he loves it.
That's what's up.
But yeah, dude, another place that it's not banking wise, but because I know Cayman Islands has a lot of wealthy people living in it because of that. But banking wise, did you know that Dubai has the most millionaires per like capita that live there? Like
really?
Everybody's just like, yeah, if you go to Dubai, you know how you see like Toyotas everywhere around here? In Dubai, it's like Lambo, Bugatti, Rolls Royce, like everybody's got those. It's just like driving up and down here because.
Have you been to Miami recently? Or ever?
Just a couple months ago. Yeah,
Miami.
We kind of stayed downtown.
So in downtown Miami, like the car I see when I go down there, it's like G-Wagon, nice ass Mercedes, Lambo, Ferrari, Lambo. I think I've seen one Bugatti down there, but it's probably the dude from Dubai.
Right. Yeah, like you're right. Miami's like that as well, where like you say, like G-Wagon, Range Rover. I mean, you'll see all types of like nice cars there. You see a couple Lambos and stuff for sure.
That's great. I
mean, that hotel with like Rolls Royce trucks, but yeah, Dubai is actually the richest nation. It has like 12 billionaires and like 314 like per capita. Like they have the most millionaires per capita.
Wow, that's insane. I obviously have like heard about Dubai being like a hype, like dope spot to go, but isn't it in the UAE, United Arab Emirates? Like what I know about the Middle East and Islam culture is that like you don't fuck around with the fuckery. So like, so I thought this is probably 4 or 5 years ago. So I kind of assumed like maybe that's just reserved for like the Dubai folks. Whereas like, but the more that I learn, the more it seems like it's a more like touristy place to just go.
It is very touristy because people like to go there because it is like a very like. And I just like anywhere else of these places, like outside of that hub, like just like poor, right? Like just poverty. But they are like I just pulled up this thing. This was old too. This is 2020. They've got report showed, and this is reports, right? So if we know anything about wealthy people, they hide as much as well. So this is what they could actually report on: is it's home to 12 billionaires, 214 millionaires, with 100 million plus, 3,410 millionaires with over 10 million plus, 79,100 millionaires with over 1 million, and they have a combined wealth of almost 900 billion.
Wow.
And they control about 744 billion. That one little city.
Wow.
This is just a city. Like, that's it.
Yeah. And so does it have do we know how many people live in the city?
Let's see. People live in Dubai.
3.3 mil.
Yep. 3.3.
Wow.
And so if we add up 12 to 14, I'm doing all the addition. 214 plus
this high level math right here.
Divided by 3.3 million. So almost 3% of their people are multi-millionaires.
Wow.
So to put that in perspective, what Columbus is now is like a million is like a million, right? Like population of Columbus, Ohio.
I think it's more than that.
I think it's like, I know we were on track to hit a million. I think it is more now too. I think it's like 1.5, but we're just at like a million, right? This stat from 2019 I have up says like 880,000 or something like that. And I know that I saw another article like
we'll just say a million.
Year. Yeah, that was like we were at a million. So a city that's just 2 million more than Columbus, which, I mean, Columbus is a decent city, but it's not the largest by far, right? I mean,
yeah.
But like to have 3% of those people be multi-millionaires is.
Yeah, I feel like that's unlikely to be 3% here.
Oh yeah, no way. Like
maybe like 0.5%.
Yeah, like maybe, yeah. Like, and if we are right, like we're talking about the millionaires that are just like, I've got like a little bit over $1 million in assets. Like the fact that they've got, and this is home, right? So these are the people who actually like have residency there, not even the people that
that visit.
Technically live somewhere else. Like if I lived here, but I go and I'm in there for 6-8 months, like whatever, like that's just like who actually claim that as their home residence. Like 12 billionaires, that's 214 with over 100 million plus. And I know it's really big in like real estate because like it's the Middle East. So like all the like Middle East dudes that are like rich as shit and control that real estate stuff.
Yeah, gas or whatever.
Yeah, and all that oil and stuff are like in Dubai.
Yeah. That's what's up. But yeah, I like 5 years ago, I probably would have been like, I'm good. But now I'm like, I'd probably try it and just see what's up. I just would like, it would depend on I would have to do some research, I guess, because like I knew, like, so when I was in college, I knew a lot of people that were from the Middle East in general, but I had a few that were from United Arab Emirates, and they talked to me about like, I don't think any one of them were from Dubai, but they've been there, and what they said was like, during the day, shit is like calm, but at night, like anything you want, you can find. It's kind of like Amsterdam, I guess. I don't know much about Amsterdam, but like Amsterdam supposedly is like you can do anything. There's no rules or whatever. You know what I mean? Like basic shit, probably. Like you can't drink, but like you can smoke heroin or whatever. And so apparently that's similar things are happening in Dubai. So
see, that doesn't surprise me. Anywhere where people who are very wealthy go and occupy, there's going to be less rules. That sounds bad, but people that like, if we think people that wealthy people, we don't. They
rules
like
are.
Yeah, usually against regulation
our,
and rule. Right. Yeah, it's
against
like
the grain.
right, because like we've talked about on this, we're and it sounds kind of bad, but you're kind of like, well, let's just let the chips fall where they may, right? Like whatever it is, and it does suck because again, like I said, right outside that there's huge poverty, but like all those people get employed by the hotels and stuff there, and like I mean, so you're generating some economy, but like,
well, that's here's the deal. Here, check it out. It's either this, which I'm sure you can find plenty of instances where it's shitty and people are treated horribly and aren't paid well enough, but it's like the alternative is you have absolutely nothing and you live in a tent and like you're in the desert or wherever. You know what I mean? Like at least it's something. And you can work with something.
right.
You can work with nothing. So like, you know, I'm with that sentiment, but then also like with you know, as far as like wealthy people and rules, like it's less about, it is about rules, but as a wealthy person, I think to myself, I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm doing it my way, and I'm going to finesse around the rules if I have to, or break some rules that are stupid, and like I'm going to make it happen regardless. And so I feel like that same energy correlates to.
So I looked it up, and it says that, so I guess in general, and this is even from our government, that Dubai is like a really safe city. Like it's a low threat level location. The crime that they do see is like street crimes, right? So which makes sense, right? If you got wealthy people, and it says it's usually done by the poor people outside or poor people like traveling to there to prey on people who are wealthy, right? But pickpocketing, shoplifting, petty theft, and they said rarely are weapons involved. So it's not like they're just trying to get one over on on people. But everything's like very low, like level of crime and stuff like that. This was February 21. Safety walking alone during daylight is 91.37%. So I guess that's very high, it says. Safety walking alone at night is 83.3%. And like I said, the crimes that happen is just basically like pickpocketing and shit. Like which
Interesting.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so that's the thing, I think. So the safety aspect is there, but I think if you wanted to get into some trouble and like find some fucked up shit,
for sure,
you can find it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean? Like I'm sure there's like sex trafficking you could get into, like you could, like the shit on Taken where they just like walk girls out and like bid on them and shit. I guarantee that shit goes down somewhere in Dubai.
I feel like the people who kind of fund that stuff are probably in Dubai because like, and honestly, dude, it's people can say whatever, dude. I think we've kind of touched on it before. I would not be surprised if it came out and half of the individuals in our government are connected to sex trafficking somehow. I don't understand it. I don't know.
Yeah, or
why
participated.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, at least participated. Maybe not like
Did you look into all the like Pizzagate stuff that went on?
Oh yeah.
Like you don't need to like do anything but look at there and like, okay.
Well, that was like, to me, that was like a made up shit that happened on the internet that sort of caught a like momentum, and then someone actually went there and like nothing was going on.
No, so I'm not necessarily at the actual place. First of all, let's Occam's razor, right? And we can do this. We did kind of the same thing we did with 9/11. If as many people are as connected as to this as we just agreed that there probably are involved in some way.
Yeah.
There's a chain of command and things that have to happen when people get when you're going to go raid a place like that. I wouldn't expect anything to be found. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, of course not. But I'd seen a documentary on Netflix, maybe it just been a clip too, but about that. And like the fact that there's like emails of like, it was like, that was the weird thing. It was like, and it was just found in like the email dumps of like a couple people, but like, oh yeah, the way the word, like, oh, I'd like this type of pizza, like, are we doing like, it was just like so strange, the communication that was happening around that.
Yeah.
From from government officials, where it's like that you did, like, literally they were pulling up some emails, like, it doesn't even make sense to like use and reference pizza and these things, what they were doing and the consistency of it, and like was just like very strange, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, like I said, I wouldn't expect anything to be found if that was the case. But the other thing that we talked about too is kind of like when we talked about the Epstein thing. Okay, why was homie just he was gone like too quickly for like that just lets me know how big it is. Like, homie gets arrested, homie is gone like within day, like, because he was gonna sing like a bird, and there we were gonna find out a lot about some people.
Yeah. I gotta watch that documentary. I haven't watched it yet. It's called Evil Genius, right?
Are you talking about the Epstein one?
No, the Pizzagate one.
Maybe. I don't know. My wife puts shit on TV. I think Evil Genius.
Evil Genius, the true story of America's most diabolical bank heist. This baffling true crime story starts with death of a pizza man who robs a bank with a bomb around his neck. Oh no, that's not it.
No, that ain't it. I wonder if it was on the series Dirty Money on Netflix, because they do like little episodes.
Maybe that's it. Anyway,
I can't remember, but
that's weird. Maybe I haven't. I guess from my perspective, what I had heard about it and read about it and listened about it was that it was like it was more of a kind of like how Reddit with Wall Street Bets came together and like got all these people into GameStop, and then eventually it got to the point where it still is at this point where people are just like hold the line, just keep buying and hold, and it's still gonna go to 10,000 a share. Like, you're delusional. You're wrong. Like, that's not gonna happen. I feel like it's a similar thing with that, where people just like on the internet sort of banded together and created this cult of like people that believe for a fact that this shit was happening at this pizza restaurant, when I just don't. From what I've heard about it, it just doesn't seem. It seems more likely that people got together and just wanted to believe that it was true than there's actual evidence that.
So here's where and you heard me talk about this before. There's always both, right? Yes. There's always going to be the crazies who take it, and that's where it kind of lost its, like, where it was like they're performing satanic rituals and all this stuff, and maybe, right, but you get all that added stuff. But
yeah,
like there's a seed of truth that this starts on, and because of the internet, things get added. But did you see when last year? Do you remember when Wayfair was?
Yes. That shit was nuts. Oh my god.
Amazon and Wayfair. To me, yes, right. Like so it was kind of the same thing, right? But now I don't know if that was necessarily connected to any government officials. Someone was just
real quick for the listeners who didn't hear about this, maybe. Wayfair supposedly, and I don't know what the verdict was or what the final decision was on this, but was apparently shipping closets and like large furniture with sex traffickers in it. Is that
so? The last I heard was there, and this is again to me as expected.
Wait,
right?
I should not sex traffickers, trafficked people, I should say.
Right. Yes. So here was the thing, right? Wayfair is an online thing, and they're connected to Amazon. By the way, their distribution is through Amazon, and you guys have to understand that if I'm going to traffic, first of all, anything, but especially people, distribution is the most you have to have distribution because we can't just kidnap people and hop them on American Airlines
or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so Wayfair, people start figuring out Wayfair is just first of all, it's like a cheap e-commerce site where you can buy like pillows and stuff. But so you'd go and you'd see a pillow, this great pillow, and let's say it's $10. Okay, cool. But then you could go and with certain SKU numbers put in, and that same pillow with a very strange description would be on there and be like 1.8 million, 40,000.
Yeah.
Pillow that is fresh and young, like never, like 28, that like, and like some like users just like stumbled upon this somehow, and they started like scraping, and Wayfair started trying to like wipe the stuff and came up, but like to me, like I always tell my wife all the time, you can tell me whatever, but I'm not a fool.
So, yeah.
Like everyone, but everyone I'm not else. Believe whatever. I don't like that allegedly shit. I don't need allegedly. I know nobody's building a website and charging $40,000 for one fucking pillow from Wayfair.
Yeah, and having that description being like
exactly
tight,
exactly
thin,
and
firm.
Then having like there was also some like the SKU numbers would like they started doing some stuff, and again a lot of this stuff started getting scrubbed, but like there was like if you took the SKU number and like put it in, it was like on Google there was some where they would put, and there would be like images on Google of like a girl or a child or something like it was like just so strange. And then it just disappeared. Like this was like the like, and then just be gone.
Yeah.
Like what? Like it didn't make any sense. And like we're not talking about brand. Like Wayfair is just like random shitty stuff. Like I mean, yeah. If you shop at Wayfair, I'm sorry. It's not like high end like stuff. Anything.
Yeah, it's random. It's random like furniture and stuff.
And so, but like I said, that happened like right in the middle of last year.
Yeah.
And then it just literally disappeared like after a week.
I was gonna say it came out, and then I would say less than it was like a few days, and then nobody said a word about it again, which
is ridiculous. And so here's my thing too, right? And this is how I know it goes up to the top, right? And this, like I said, you can tell me whatever, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I can see data for what it is. When we bust and we have these local busts, like we just have here in Columbus, and we've got all these local guys who are involved in it, and local representatives and stuff.
I remember driving up. I remember driving up through Polaris, going past this high-rise Hilton hotel right by 71, and I remember I forget what I was doing, probably going to like H&M or something stupid, and I saw like 15 SWAT cars in the parking lot of this Hilton, and I was like, what the hell is going on there? And I assume like drugs or it's I'm sure somebody, you can shoot right up and down 71 and hit any place you want through the state on the East Coast. And I went on the news, or my mom actually told me, because I don't watch the news, But I came home, and then later that evening, my mom was like, there was a big sex trafficking bust that happened at the Hilton earlier. And I was like, are you kidding me, Mom? I legit drove past there as like dudes with ARs were hopping out of their SWAT cars, like going into that Hilton. And I was like, that is insane. And so it was just like, just a what do you call it? Fucking word. Anecdote.
Mm-hmm.
I love words.
So this was, I was just looking this up. So this is what would happen, right? This was the thing. So they'd have like these 10,000, 12,000 pillows and cabinets and stuff.
Yep.
And the same one would be listed on the site for a lower price, but they'd have this other version. And like I said, the reviews on it would be reviews about like stuff that didn't make sense. But that was it. It would be like the Zarya cabinet, XYZ. And the Reddit users started figuring out like they would put the name from that product and they'd find them, they would find like a missing children.
Yeah.
It's from like, since 2010. Like, and it, but then like it just disappeared. But like, so I was saying, if locally that's happening, there's no corruption locally that's happening that doesn't, like, a local politician is not going to have the resources necessary to really make something like that happen. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I know it has to go all the way up higher. And if you guys, again, just go look at the facts for yourself, right? But again, so you start searching SKUs and they bring up missing children's, you know, like that doesn't make any sense. Like it's
that's
just, like
that's not an accident.
Right. That's what
it's
I'm
not
saying.
a coincidence.
And then their CEO had come out and was like, obviously there's no truth to this, people, we just really high price points, right? She said the products in question are industrial grade cabinets that are accurately priced
at 1.8 mil.
Like, and I exaggerate that. The ones I'm seeing are like 20, 30, 16, 8, but like,
yeah.
And why do you have the same thing for like a real price, a reasonable price, but then you got this other one? And why does this one have like the name of the missing children attached to it? Like, I've never heard of a Tiffany cabinet, like a Zarya cabinet. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Like, with SKU numbers that pick up missing kids and stuff. So, and to me, also, if you guys just want to go look this is pretty much, go look up how many politicians, because nothing usually happens to them, but politicians have been charged with or admitted to, some of you admit to, and they just like come back for like not necessarily child trafficking in general, but like child pornography and stuff. Like, it's just like, it's too much, bro. And I'm like, all right, you can tell me whatever. I know what it is.
It's borderline, like it's probably worse than the shit that went down with the priesthood in the Catholic Church, and how like hidden and sort of covered up and shit like that. Because like the church isn't even incentivized to hide that. You know what I mean? Like, well, I guess it depends on your perspective. I'm not looking for it as hard as I am in the church.
Right.
As I am with politicians and their corrupt bullshit.
Right.
So like, I'm incentivized to see it in politics and the way that, and big banks and government type people. I'm looking for it there. I'm not really looking for it in the Catholic Church, and it was found in huge amounts sickening amounts in the church. And so like there's no way that it's not happening, in politics and with wealthy people, for sure.
And here's the thing too about this particular story. Why, after it got light, did you start removing those products?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if it's a cabinet and that's what, like, why would you take it down? Right? Like, why is it?
Yep.
Like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, it's sad. I really don't understand. Like, I can understand the drug business. I kind of can, right? Like I don't understand.
You should watch this show, Trafficked, on, I think it's on National Geographic, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
What's it about?
It's this investigative journalist, Mariana Van Zeller, boss bitch, goes into like all these different countries and sort of like examines black markets basically, and talks to the people and gets to know them, and like, works with a crew and tries to, get in, and one of the episodes, what you said reminded me of, there's this one episode, I think they're doing, it was about fentanyl, and how the, like, to make this stuff, you have to be like a chemist, basically. And so she got in with this guy as he's making the fentanyl, and it's like him and a few, like, handful of other dudes, and they're all like, yeah, I'm using this money that I make from making drugs to, like, pay for my my kid's surgery and to go to college so that I can be a real chemist.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, it's like, there's, for a lot of people, like, that's the only option. You either do that, or you are poor and have, like, next to nothing in a small little village in Colombia or wherever.
Right.
So like you're saying, it's I can understand that. I get down with that. Like,
right.
But I can't. I have no interest in trafficking people.
And I know there's fucked up people. To me, like, what's the end goal? Like, so that they can, which happened, it's called sex trafficking for a reason, right? Sexual acts. Like, first of all, all right, if you don't want me to get graphic, you're gonna have to, like, mute out for the next 2 minutes. But God forgive me. There's no child. Like, if I want that sloppy toffee, I need somebody who's gonna give me that sloppy toffee that knows what they're doing. Overpaying for a child so that I can perform, like, it doesn't even sound appealing to me. Like, what? Like, you're not good at this shit. Like, I can't wrap my mind, or like,
can't fathom.
Yeah,
it's beyond me. It really is.
I can't comprehend it at all. Like, it's some fucked up people, man. I really don't understand it.
Yeah.
Especially with how easy it is. So sex trafficking in general is not always children, but right, there's sex trafficking, but like, especially I just, like, guys, it ain't that hard if you're trying to get your shit wet.
It's harder than you think. I feel like, I think for some people, some incel beta bitches, like, it can be tough out there.
But here's what I'm saying: like, you can go to anywhere, any major city I know, and find prostitutes who will give you a good time for you know.
Go to Vegas.
Yeah, like
you can do it legally.
Like, well, I mean, even it's illegal, right? There's the clubs where you go to the strip clubs and then you can go to the back room. One of my buddies was talking about this, right? And swipe your card a few times and you get, whatever is needed back there. That's what I mean by it's too, like, to go do the extra stuff. I don't know. Oh, actually, I have a business partner who, this person that he was trying to do a real estate deal with. This was in Ohio. What got like wrapped up and busted in that like sex trafficking ring thing, that just happened, and because he was like, dude, this guy just disappeared, and they figured out like, oh, he got rounded up. Wow. That was like had like these massage parlors that ended in a happy ending, but they were like part of like the sex trafficking ring too. And to me, I'm just like,
wow.
I don't know, man. I just don't understand it. I really don't. But
yeah, I can't. Like it's to some degree the way that I can sort of, I don't know if rationalize is the right word, but the way that I can get past it and like continue living on is just like I recognize that those actions and the way that the way that some people act, it just reminds me of how we're still just fucking chimps, hairless chimps that, like some people are really just stuck in animal mode. Like y'all don't even, there's just no, you're not even the whatever part of you that makes you human, like you're either losing it or have lost it.
Right, your critical thinking, right? That's what sets us apart, if I'm not correct, right? Then us from animals is the ability to critically think, like, and people turn that off.
That's one thing. Thinking. There's a lot of things that sets apart, but yeah, like that's one for sure.
Like obviously all animals have brains, but like the fact that we logic and reason like that, like critical thinking is something.
The ability for logic and reason is not, like I think there's a lot of animals that apparently a lot of sea life, like whales and dolphins and shit, are really smart, and octopus pussies. But they don't have hands, like they're not able to interact and affect change in their world. Unless, maybe there might be giant ass cities underwater. Who the fuck knows? Like Aquaman or some shit. But
right.
But it seems less likely that they're able to do that because there's not, like we've built fucking skyscrapers. You know what I mean? We haven't seen an octopus like build a house or anything.
Right.
So there's there's some tangible like interaction with the world missing there. That sets us apart, because a lot of people bring up that like, oh well, dolphins are like, they're cognitive of their existence and shit like that. Well, it's like, okay, great, but like they haven't I haven't seen one dolphin build no skyscraper.
Well, and that's what I think too. Like, I'm not talking about, obviously there's mammals that have intelligence, but intelligence beyond, like, because and that's the other thing. It's like, oh, we say like, oh, like chimps are so smart, right? Like, well, a lot of things can mimic behavior, right? Well, especially when incentivized.
Yeah. Chimps are like very smart, and like studying them is fascinating, which I've done, not a lot, but like I'm very interested in that. But it, like studying chimps has also helped me put some things in perspective, like this in particular, like how people can be so evil, and just not, but very rarely are people so blind to think that they're like, most people aren't malicious. They like they try to justify or like, they try to make sure that they try to settle things in their head, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to live with themselves.
Right.
And so, like, it's in those cases when it comes to, like sex trafficking, like the only way that I can see a human getting is just you turn off your brain. You turn off your critical thinking, like you said, or you've given back what makes you human. You've like given that away to allow yourself to do something so evil.
Well, and that's what I mean by, like, I think that's one of the differences that makes us human, right? We humans, this is something I know, we can, if we spend enough time on it, we can reason and rationalize any behavior for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, so like you may say, like, hey, I'm not gonna fucking jump on your back and eat you like a lion would a gazelle.
Yeah.
But then on that same term, you like, that's what I'm saying. Like the lion's not like that. That's like, he's not really thinking about it. It's a I need to survive, and this is the action that happens. Like, it's just, there's no like thought process about it.
Yeah.
Where
it's just instinct, and that's
right. Exactly.
And we have that too, which I think a lot of times people forget, is like, there's instincts within us that, like sex is a huge one. Like when you're having sex, it's like so
that's a perfect example, right? Sex, for instance, animalistic instinct that we've actually logic and reasoned that for many reasons, technically we should just be going around sticking it in wherever we can.
As far as our like
animalistic, like
nature,
right. But we've logic and reasoned, and whether it should be that way or not, whatever, you can argue whatever. That like, oh, that's not what is acceptable or what we should do, for all these things as well. And so we're like, so we've turned off or dumbed down like some of that animalistic instinct. And I think that's what. So I guess that's how it happens, right? You can, like I said, because we can have that ability to rationalize. So like I said, that perfect example. But if you felt like for some reason if your will and reason or why behind something, let's say we were both stranded, there's nothing left on an island, and you have a very strong will or reason you need to survive for an extra couple days, you can logic and reason yourself into cannibalism.
Yeah.
You see me? Like that, like that's
it. Yeah. It happened in Russia during the Marxist revolution, like in the gulags and shit, they didn't give them food, so people started eating people.
Right.
I mean, it was such a huge thing that the government posted signs. I wish I could pull one up, but they would post like propaganda signs saying like, remember, don't eat your children. Like that was a legitimate poster, that was a billboard that was in Russia in like the 40s or 50s or something like that. Maybe it was earlier. I don't remember the exact time, but it was during the Russian Revolution. Like, depravity can push you to dark places.
Right. And so I guess I can see that. I just don't know what reason I get. Like I said, to me, that's a principle. And so principles apply to all people at all places at all times. So I guess when I say that, I guess I understand how someone could reason that. I just don't know what the reasoning would be. I don't know what you would be telling yourself, reasoning on why I'm participating in something like sex trafficking.
I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. It you know, like maybe it's a childhood that it's really hard to say.
Like even like like trafficking in general, like I said, I can understand. Like even the slave trafficking, just like regular slave, like that makes sense to me. I mean that's pretty like I'm lazy as fuck. There's a whole lot of work to do.
There's a whole lot of work.
Well, because I mean, like imagine coming like, dude. Yeah, I mean, has anyone ever like you went on vacation during the summer and let's say you were gone for a month and you didn't cut your grass, like damn.
You come back, you got some work to do.
Right, like, and that's just like some little cutting the grass. Like now, imagine
Yeah.
you don't even have like a lawnmower, and like you're like you just discovered this place
And you got like 50 acres or some shit.
That's what I'm saying, and you got to build and survive on it, and you're just like, yeah, nah, we got to get somebody. Come on, man, somebody got to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and
like that makes sense.
And are you gonna pay your neighbor to do it when you could get someone to do it for you for free?
Well, here's the thing: your neighbor got the same issue. That's what you're
Exactly.
saying. Like we all just sitting here looking at this
exactly.
like untamed land, like, yeah, this ain't for us, man. Like I can understand the reasoning behind that, but like especially in this day and age, I can't understand. But it's so prevalent and it's sad to see. For sure.
Yeah.
And I really wish Jeffrey Epstein was alive because I'd love for him to sing like a bird.
Yeah, that would have been great. But so here, this is sort of my hypothesis for how people get to this point, get to the point where we've talked before, and this is something that I think somewhat regularly when I see people like, there's times where I see, it could be like a 30-year-old dude who, I don't know, like, let's say, like, didn't get a promotion at work. And so he just like bitches and complains and moans and groans and is like, I hate this fucking bullshit ass job, and like, and then just becomes like a prick to everyone because he didn't get what he wanted. To me, that is yes, you're outside, your appearance is a 30-year-old man, but your cognitive function is that of a like 15-year-old. And so I say it to my girl all the time where, like, if I see something like this happen, it could be driving or it doesn't matter. Like, what I'm talking, there's sort of instances where you see people react in a way that's just like way over the top and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it's like, oh, you're a 40-year-old you're a like 5-year-old in a 40-year-old's body.
Right, your emotional intelligence is not matching with your.
Yeah, and so and we can sense that. I feel like that it's I think everyone can sense it, especially if you like tap into it and look for it. And so that's the first thing. Then another thing is I've seen some research into Jonathan Haidt is someone who's done a lot of research on this, where there used to be a lot of kids were allowed to have like free play, to like mess around with their siblings, mess around with their parents, not I mean like physically,
right.
Not like, there's obviously a line, so not like disrespect your parents, but like
right.
You play wrestle with your dad or your whoever, and then also there's play like at school that happened a lot, that and it, even 1,000 years ago, the kids would all, there was the communities would like all together take care of the kids, and like we were much more communal. So kids were able to like have that sort of free play and be able to, fuck around and do whatever kids do. Starting, Jonathan Haidt did some study. It may not have been him, but he had a hand in it. Where they looked at the history of play just over the last like 50 years, and it's gone like way down. So kids are not able to have free, he calls it free play, as much as they used to. And so he had a hypothesis that that some of the gender dysmorphia that is happening with a lot of like people my age, our age, and younger, our generation and younger, it could be, again, a hypothesis, could be a result of a priori like it's a priori like not offset, but like it's been pushed back there because they were not able to develop play circuits in their brain, which I don't know all the science that goes into that, but developing those, you actually create like more neurons in your brain as you play, and really as you do anything that sort of like pushes you mentally.
Right.
And so if you don't develop those play circuits in your brain, your connection and you miss something with your interaction in the world, and your identity and your place and your meaning, purpose. And so he had one of a few hypotheses was maybe the lack of free play and the circuits that are created in children's minds are offset by not having that free play, and it manifests itself later on in life with gender dysmorphia. And it's like, because like kids play, and without nobody tells a kid like play house.
Right.
Every kid does that. I don't know if I did, but I'm sure I probably did. I know my brother did. My brother used to do that shit all the time, and I'd make fun of his dumb ass. No, I'm playing. Well, I mean, I would make fun of him, but and it's also interesting. This is sort of a tangent, but like, everybody's like, you got when the family gets together, it's like you play mom and I'll play dad, and but you're not actually playing your dad or the mom. Like you're playing you're sort of taking all of the things that as mom and smashing it into one, and you're like acting it out, the drama. Which that's another study that's really fascinating, that also has a lot of circuitry involved that helps develop us as like productive beings. Anyway, back to this circuit thing. So let me get to my actual hypothesis. So if you don't create those circuits, there's negative effects in the long run. None of this is like proven. Again, this is all like hypothesis. And so my thought with people that for whatever reason are attracted to children and want to do inappropriate things with them, I think that there's, in addition to like your mind is just all the way fucked up, I think that there might be some degree of like you are maybe you had some traumatic experience when you were 8, and this is like a common thing with like rape victims. Like it's almost like if something horrible happens to you, something very traumatic happens to you at a certain age, like part of you is trapped, part of your being is trapped and locked into that state. And like you, until you do, X, Y, and Z, and, like create some sort of way to move past that, you're stuck in that place. And so I'm wondering if there's some degree of a, like, for the people that want to do this and pursue it and spend the money to do it, if there's like you're a 10-year-old in a 40-year-old's body and you have $50 million. So like you've had some traumatic experience that led you to be hyper successful, which also allows you to satisfy your 10-year-old self or your whatever 13-year-old self by engaging in some messed up act that to like I've had plenty of trauma in my life, but I'm a very like introspective, hyper rational like dude. I wouldn't. There's times where I struggle to go to sleep just from the shit that today. Right. I have to figure it out or I can't sleep, sort of thing. But not everyone is like that. And so, there's plenty of things that people push under the rug and push away and don't try to figure out because it's so traumatic. And and maybe it manifests later on in that way and part of me sees this with like, and this might be with Michael Jackson, this might be like this may be naive of me. Right. But hear me out. I wonder have you heard the reports that possibly he was chemically castrated by his dad to keep his singing voice like high? Supposedly there was this was a thing apparently back that, and I mean still is, I guess, where you can like take certain chemicals and it I don't know if I don't think it's like estrogen necessarily, but there's a certain chemical that just like blocks testosterone. And so therefore basically castrates you. I don't know all the scientific shit about it, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say that happened when Michael Jackson was, let's say, 10 that started. To me, if that's true, that could explain why he was like loved hanging out with young boys or children in general. Was like he could have had such a traumatic, but that maybe traumatic might be a stretch because it's kind of like that's a weird thing to happen. But it's such a pivotal moment, like time, and you're like your body is like setting the stage and prepping, if not already changing because from like hormones, and you're starting to really become like a different, you're like kids under like 8, you really, unless you put them in clothes that indicate that they're boy or girl, like, they're pretty much the same. Like, they technically have different shits, but I mean, like the hormones aren't there to really differentiate. So to get hit with that right as, you're about to go into, puberty, might have been, if not a traumatic experience, it may have been like his brain didn't mature in the same way that his body was supposed to mature. And so he sort of got locked in this, part of him got, sort of locked in this state as like a, 10, 12, 13-year-old boy. And so like part of him still loved hanging with other children, you know what I mean? Because like
Right.
just in some like weird way.
I know it's been pretty documented that Joe Jackson was abusive to them. Obviously, we don't know the extent of that. Not like, I don't know if it was ever sexually, but I mean, and they were so young, right? When they were the Jackson 5, I could see that making sense, right? Like him being robbed of that. And so.
Well, and it's, that's what I was saying, knowing how, like he was the mastermind of the whole thing. And Michael was, like one of probably he was the most talented of the 5.
For sure.
So like, I don't know. It again, it's all speculation, and there's some evidence of this, but like, it just sort of it's something that I've thought about as a possible, something that might be true, that, maybe I'm full of shit and maybe I'm naive, but, and like I'm going to say probably he messed with little boys inappropriately, but
that's, well, yeah, like I believe that to be true, because like I said, it's been documented by I mean, all of the Jacksons that I know had mentioned that, they were definitely physically abused. And one of them said that, they were definitely mentally and physically abused, but that basically that it didn't just stop there, right? And so again, we know there is studies and data on that usually people, it's kind of that the simple thing of it is, hurt people, but that like basically people who sexually abuse people or you have usually been sexually abused. And so I mean that makes sense. I think that kind of aligns with like your theory of kind of what you were talking about, and the retardation or perversion of certain areas of the mind, right? Where like how you're supposed to process something, like causes that to manifest later, for whatever reason, which is super intriguing. And I know there's all types of studies about how our body stores trauma, and it can, remanifest itself in several ways. So I think that goes totally along with what you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, the human mind is a bottomless pit, I feel like.
What, dude, it's crazy that, I mean, what is this? What we only access like 13 or 30, like somewhere 15 to 30% of our brain or something like that.
Yeah. I think
no, it's like less. It's like 10%.
I think that's a myth. I think it's like 30 or 40%. Okay. But another thing that's bizarre to some degree is that we think of our so first on the 30-40% of our brain, like most of our brain is dedicated to like keeping your heart pumping and your blood flowing and your like organs working normally and all that shit. So like the majority of your brain is so like, yes, like 30-40% or whatever, the whatever percent is used for just your cognitive abilities, like thinking and rationalizing and logic and shit like that. So like, it's not that it's not that we are unable to, it's not that we're running at like, you know, half capacity or quarter capacity. It's just that that is what is used for, you know, like the frontal lobe is what's mostly used for your rationalization and like thinking. The rest of it is, you know, like sight. A lot of the like a huge portion of the brain is being able to see.
Right.
Like, and then keep your skin and cells like fucking going and reproducing and doing whatever they do, and your organs working, and your poop and your peeing and all that. So, but then another thing that's fascinating is like most of us think of our like brain being our head, which like makes sense, but in reality, your brain goes like all the way down your spine. It like the
right.
There's I don't know the exact like science behind it, but a long time ago, before and whatever, like for those who are, if you don't believe in evolution, like whatever, a long time ago, science has shown that like for early living mammals, the like majority of the like brain ran through like the spine, and it like slowly worked its way up. Like that's why most like alligators have a brain that's like that big. They don't murder, eat is like that's all they need. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, the reptilian brain.
Yeah. So but then another thing is they tracked the in this study was fascinating, blew my mind. And it was years ago so it was probably when I was back in college, in a like psychology class or something. But I got this from Jordan Peterson too. In this study, they showed that throughout history, people's like idea of where like sustenance or where like being came from started like, so back in the like, so they've looked at like old art and shit like that, and you know how we have like when in our modern day society, if you think of like, oh, I had a great idea, you'd be like, you point to your head and be like, great idea. Back then they would point to their stomach, and so there's all kinds of art of them going like this, and sort of like directing their attention to their stomach, because, well, first, like, if I ain't eating, that shit be hurting. But then also it's like, if you're, you know, that's where like your gut instincts sort of came from.
Right.
And so so thinking with your gut is like you know, we like to think of that as maybe
like a euphemism,
primitive, or euphemism. It's like, if you're thinking, you know, if you're using your gut, then you're probably not thinking clearly. Maybe not. Maybe you're a lot of times your gut instinct is actually spot on, and there's almost like a sixth sense if you really tap into your being and you know, your human nature in general. You can see that. And so then there was, over time, then the next thing was heart. So like people would like beat their chest and shit, you know, and I don't, you know, this is over the course of thousands of years.
Right.
Things would start to transition. And so it went from stomach to heart. And then in like, I think it was in like one of the early, what is it? Mesopotamia is when it started to come to the mentals. for people, and that's
what were they like citing for the reason of it like change, like why not stay at the gut, like what are they,
so
the reason is
as society and like civilization developed, you know, if you're hungry, like that's all you can think about, right? And so the reason the thought behind it is, okay, well, back then, you know, like we're hunter gatherers, like
right
we're looking for the next meal.
right
But then after so long, then, you know, maybe you are able to have a farm and like, you know, have some, maybe not even that much, like maybe you have a pasture where there's like, you know, that there's some buffalo or some shit over there, and like maybe you work with them, or, you know, you feed them or something, I don't know, somehow you take another step towards like securing food on a more consistent basis. So then as you do that, then you're no longer like worried, oh my god, like where's my next meal, what's my, you know, like, so then you can kind of, so the thought was then it sort of, once we've developed enough to get out of like hunter gatherer mode and like worried about our next meal, then things started to move like to the chest and the heart, where, you know, now you're starting to develop starting to develop like language and affection and love and feelings. That's sort of like the next layer. Probably emotion and feelings is like the next step in that process.
right
And so that's why the heart was so like focused on. And I remember when I was a kid, I was probably like 12, maybe younger than that. I remember always thinking like, why do we associate love and feelings with the heart? Like that's disgusting. And why is it
right
but like this, when I read this, I was like, oh shit, that's why. Because like, so that was sort of the progression.
But
Feeling.
isn't that all still coming from the head though? Like what I guess like what added to the representation of saying like, you know, here when like you said your heart, like your chest, your heart, like
Well, okay, so let me put it, have you ever had like a really bad breakup? Or
yeah
or have you ever been like, oh, here's a good example. Have you ever done something that was just like really messed up, and you knew that like your mom was gonna be pissed at you and like and be disappointed in you?
right yeah
For me at least, and I assume for others, in those moments, I don't feel pain. Like, I'm not hurt in my head. I am hurt in my chest. Like my chest hurts when I let my parents down, or when I went, you know, if I went through a bad breakup, I feel tension and hurt and whatever in my chest. It's not, that's sort of where it centralizes. Not in my stomach, not in my head. It's in my chest. And so that, maybe that's anecdotal, probably is, but that's kind of where, and you know, maybe I think that may have been in that in this study that I read, but it's been so long, I don't remember. I couldn't even tell you the title, to be honest. It's been a long
it's
time.
interesting.
And so you know, for whatever, maybe that's bullshit, but that's the idea, is that it's feeling sort of manifests from the chest, and then the next step was then logic and reason, which
So is that just how, because I think we can, right, chemically and scientifically we know that that's not true, like right, we know that that's not true, right? We're not actually physically like you're not, that doesn't come from there, like you were saying, specific because the way our brain functions, that's the physical manifestation of what's up here.
correct. And that's
Okay. It was just that we weren't aware of that yet.
Correct. Well, but it's even, like science is important and good and useful, but there's a lot of metaphysical things in life that can't be explained or can't be, satisfied by science. Because science is sort of like science tells us, it like gives us facts, but it doesn't tell us like how to act or how to feel or how to interact with the world. Right? So that science is amazing and good and helpful, and like, the people that made our ancestors that evolved and transitioned and developed through all this to get us to where we're at now, like there's a lot that went into that. And so they didn't have science to be like, oh yeah, it all starts here. But like even if sadness is one thing, but like if I'm angry and I want to like slay bodies, it comes from my chest and my heart. And I, maybe it's hard to prove that, you know what I mean?
No, I think what you're saying is right. I think you're on track. I think everything you said makes sense, especially if, like we said, the brain's what controls all these things. And if you also look at the studies that talk about how our body stores trauma as well, that makes sense that you experience trauma up here. That doesn't necessarily mean it manifests in stores physically there as well, because the brain controls all these things you can feel.
Yeah. But then
I
also,
think that makes sense.
And that goes to my point too, is like the brain isn't all up here. It goes all the way down your spine. And like the earliest parts of your brain are like what runs through your vertebrae, and that's what has most of that is involuntary work. It's just like keeping them organs pumping and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the brain, and that's why the like 30-40% idea can be like confusing a little bit, because it's not like we're running at half capacity. Like I said, it's most of the brain is dedicated to involuntary activity to like keep you alive. And to see and to, we've got the best sight of any mammal. Like the only things that can see better than us are birds of prey.
Yeah, like in the light.
Yeah. Like,
because I think like lions and stuff can like see like miles and stuff from like in the dark. We can't.
Yeah, but they can see. So and we have this a little bit too, but they can see. They don't see color like we do. So things are sort of like black and white, and that's the main thing. Is like, it's not about, yes, you can see for a long way, like a fucking
right. You're talking about seeing in like the details and all this.
Exactly. Yeah. Being able to see color was like huge. And so like hawks, eagles, and shit like that are.
Isn't there studies that? I mean, I think I probably fall into that. We were just designed that way, but I think, isn't there studies or a hypothesis that the reason we can see colors was for survival?
Yeah, there's what's her name? The woman from the British woman that studied the chimps. What was her name? I'm Googling it. British woman that studied Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall, she wrote a book. She wrote a book about, and the whole book was a hypothesis, but she was saying it was about the like history or the like how sight became so strong and so strong in humans. And one of the main things that she mentioned was survival, but it was for being able to tell the difference between ripe and unripe fruit, which ties into Adam and Eve, which is fucking bananas. That so like the woman there, and there's a ton of like correlated like stories that that all sort of fall in line that many civilizations had that align with, you know, like the holy garden. There's a bunch of like flood stories, and anyway, so you can sort of look at these different you know, stories from Asia and Europe and Middle East and all, you know, and piece them together. Not piece them together, but they're the same, essentially the same story. So the woman grabbing the fruit and like taking it from the holy garden, like that was a common story. And so it's unbelievable that, and again, this is a hypothesis that she had. I don't know. Maybe it's been confirmed in the past. Like, I don't know. It's been a while. But that was one of the main things, is that women developed great eyesight because when they were gathering berries and fruits and all that sort of shit, you got to be able to tell what's poisonous, what's ripe, what's not ripe, what's you know disgusting and moldy.
So is the hypothesis then, just so I'm clear, is the hypothesis at the development of sight, meaning we just got better at realizing vividness of colors, or actual that we actually developed the ability to see color?
That is a great question. I'm not sure. I have the book on my wish list on Audible. I should buy it and listen.
Because like the vividness part makes sense to me, right? That makes sense, especially for that hypothesis. But to
I don't
me,
like. I don't know if we at one point just saw black and white and like it developed over thousands of years, or if it was like we always had the ability to, and it just got strengthened over time. You know what I mean? Is that what your question is? If it was always there, or if it was created?
Yeah, because absolutely, yeah, because like I feel like if I can 100%, those studies make sense to me. It'd be like the reason we have greater eyesight is because, you know, we were hunter. You get to see like in the book, like so you develop keener, more vivid, alert awareness and sight. But it'd be hard for me to believe that we just started seeing black and white and someone said, because that has to be the hypothesis, right? Because if you go the other way, the hypothesis doesn't make sense, because you're saying, hey, we developed it so that we for survive for like berries and stuff, pick ripe fruit. But if I see in black and white, the hypothesis falls apart because I can't even tell the difference between a ripe and a non-ripe. It's just black and white. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, but it's hard to say if it was a, you know, like if it followed the evolutionary like trend where it just sort of slowly, you know, and it's like the chimps that could see color better stayed alive longer and reproduced more.
Yes, that makes sense.
And so then it naturally selected for the chimps that could see color better and better and better, and so then it just sort of scaled. So like it's hard to say, you know, it might not even be possible to say we definitely saw black and white, and then it just sort of, you know, the chimps that were able to see, you know, black and blue or whatever, black and gray and blue, and a little like just a little shade, you know, like that gray that's like kind of blue. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how that would come about. I'm sure, I'm sure,
Well,
for now.
So here's why I brought that up though, is because, like I said, I'm in the reason that hypothesis is so interesting to me is because babies originally, when they come out, are colorblind. Like they only see white, black, and shades of gray. And over the couple weeks, months, they develop color. But to me, though, I don't think that makes sense to me, because basically, if I just told you to shut your eyes for 9 months and you didn't open them, and even if I close my eyelids, right, I can turn to this window and I can see colors like kind of against my eyelids. But like if you're shut in the dark, you're just not it's not that you can't see colors, you're just not seeing colors, right? Your eyes will adapt to the darkness, because we know how our pupils like dilate in, like in stuff like light and stuff. So my lens is just not open enough to let light in, because that's what actually happens, right? You have to let light into your eyes to see it.
And I think with this stuff, there's a lot of things affecting it. So like, there's also hypotheses that there was a period of time in Africa where these special mushrooms came about, and like that was something which are like hallucinogenic sort of mushrooms that people started to eat, and that accelerated the development of our brains and affected our ability to see color. Because like if you think of like any hallucinogenic thing, it's like the you see colors are more vibrant and brighter and things like that. And so like I've never participated, but I've talked to friends that have, and that's
right. But that's what I'm saying though, right? So isn't that goes kind of along with what I was talking about the babies, because when you take, let's say, a mushroom or something, there's a chemical effect that usually causes the pupils to dilate or not dilate, which, like I said, is letting in more, like, and so that's why I see it as brighter, because more light is coming in. It's not that I literally couldn't see that. Something about the pupils opening wide enough. And so, like I said, I think it makes sense that the vividness.
And so, I think maybe over the course of time, the brain, and so, like you think of like, we needed it for what humans were doing at the time. Like, so for the gatherers, they needed it to see and be able to distinguish between ripe fruit and not ripe fruit. Then for the, hunters, you needed to be able to see, like, is there a fucking like leopard behind me in the jungle? Or is there a snake, a brown snake slithering through the sand? You know what I mean? Like, I need to be able to see like what I'm trying to hunt, but also what can hurt me. And so that was sort of the flip side of the gatherer thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then in addition to that, it's like other animals maybe they don't need it. You know what I mean? Like an alligator doesn't need to see color. That man just needs to see movement. And like a cat, like cats just need to be able to see movement. Like that's like if you play with like a house cat, like you could, like if you sit something that's just sits still in the room long enough, like eventually they ignore it. But if you like tip it over, they go and inspect it like it's a brand new thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like they sense and can their brain is wired to see movement, because like if I see a mouse jump out, like boom, I'm on it.
But that's what I mean. So that's a great example, right? Because cats, and I think the part of that, and that's why I'm intrigued to see it.
We have that same thing too. Like like if something quick pops out of your eyes automatically, I mean, if you see like a movement out the corner of your eye, automatically your eyes shoot right to it and see like, what was that?
Well, right, but that's what I mean. Like, so even with cats, right? Like, the hypothesis has to be developed. It was always there
Yeah.
because even when we say colorblind, we don't like that definition doesn't mean someone literally just can't see any color. And like, so they'll say like cat's vision is like the same as a colorblind person. It's about the shades and vividness of what I can see. And because colors are just different light spectrums, there will get to a point on the spectrums that you can't really, a spectrum doesn't look it doesn't distinguish between another one, but that you can still see color, right? It's just like the vividness and how many hues of yellow can I see, which makes sense, like for the hunter and gatherer, where like girls always have like, oh, that's not yellow, that's whatever it is, and it's like, okay, bitch, it's yellow, like whatever you call it. Like that makes sense to me. That's a really, I love the process of the the process, the hypothesis behind natural selection is so intriguing to me. I love natural selection. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, same. It's fascinating to me. Like this was I hated reading for most of my life, and this was a book that I read that I like couldn't put down. It was and it was even for school, for college, like I still couldn't put it down. Like it was so good. Like truly fascinating.
That's funny. So so then I guess if we're going on that hypothesis, then every animal can, right? But it's like what you were saying, the process of natural selection doesn't only happen for humans. If I didn't have to hunt and gather, right? Like we're saying, like maybe a cat or an alligator, I never needed to develop the spectrum. And so my eyes didn't adapt to like, and so now you keep having offspring. And so they just don't, they could, there's just no reason for them to pass into.
The necessity isn't there. So like, it ain't going to just pop up out of thin air.
Right. Yeah. Which is like why I also believe that, like, I believe as crazy of athletics we have now, we say like, hey, we have freak athletes, right? I think we were actually more athletic way back when. And I think it went, here, and now it's on the trend back up. And because like, if I'm hunting shit, you got to be quick, right? If you're out there, like you have to be able to run from things, you have to be able to run to things, like, even though they may not been eating as much, like you had to be physically strong to subdue an animal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, and you think about like chimps, I think are 6 times as strong as the average man. There's some, and this is something that I believe in too, which sort of, it's the same idea as the 20% rule, or the idea where like we only are tapping into a percentage of what we are truly capable of. David Goggins calls it the 40% rule, I think. Where like I think that there's to some degree we've traded our like the chimp strength for cognitive ability. And so like I think it's possible, and like you think of any animal, like a cat can jump like 10 times its body, like its length and height, and chimps can literally rip body parts off of other chimps.
Right.
Like, say, oh, this is your arm, I will take it. Which they do. And so I think that I agree that I haven't thought about that, but that's well, I haven't said it in exactly that way. I definitely think that in the past we have been, like you said, it was like athletic as fuck, and then like went down, and now it's coming back up because like of technology and
yeah, it was because of our reliance on the use of tools, right? Because it would have had to been. So just imagine, like right now, dude, we go out in the hot sun, right? And I'm like, we may be tired after like 20, 30 minutes. You're just like, this is beating down on me. But it's because we're under shelter all the time versus when there was the lack of shelter. It's like, your endurance had to have been, you know what I'm saying? Like you just like endurance I'm not as thirsty.
Endurance and just like raw explosiveness, like just straight raw strength. Like, we went from swinging through trees all day to like where we are now. Like, you would have to be just dumb strong, and your brain would have to commit energy and resources to being strong enough to swing through trees for 24 hours a day.
Right.
So like once the need for that started to go away, then it started, the resources got, redistributed to vision or like brain power, thinking, things like that.
That's such an intriguing thought, because like we have all these things now, like, oh yeah, we can survive pretty long without food still these days. But like water, like I think it's like 7 days and we're like, you could potentially die, right? But like there's no way that that's how it was, because water wasn't like, you wouldn't had access to it enough, so like we just would have died off. So it's like, no, it's the natural selection of like, no, some motherfuckers found water and they were like, hey, y'all can go over there, we're staying by the water, and you start having offspring, and so your reliance on water becomes more and more, and the expectation of it, and so now it's like, oh well, we can't live without water, like more than a couple days. That's just such an interesting hypothesis. I just love that hypothesis because it just makes sense to me.
That was my response when I started getting into it. It was like, there's a lot of gaps in religion that I was happy to point out, and I, like, most of my life, like that was, those sort of gaps like really stood out to me, and I wasn't able to like let them go. They were things that would keep me up at night. And this was something that I read and was like, oh, this makes sense. This is like, this clicks. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like bullshit, religious, propaganda or whatever, like, or manipulation or anything. It's like straight facts, and that
I think that's funny because like I said, I think I believe in that we definitely are created, but I also believe in the process of evolution as it relates to natural selection, right? I don't believe personally that humans came from chimps, because, and like I said, I'm open to it, but I always look at, you can't have a hypothesis that at some point the hypothesis undermines itself. And so for me, my issue with that is, I'd be cool if you told us that's where we came from. It evolved over time into man, but then the ape should have gone away, right? There's too many. We should have evolved past that, so that species of us should no longer exist. And we, like, you see what I'm saying? That part is where I'm like, but natural selection in and of itself makes 100%. I believe that, no, there was an ape and there's this, and we're very similar, and you keep descending and we've gotten better. And I do believe that we probably, like you were saying, the human man now, like the way we walk and carry ourselves was not the same way back then. We probably were more Tarzan-like-ish, just because of and naturally, like I said, what you would need, because like your feet, your hands, like, you know what I'm saying, like,
well, and I think, man, it's hard to, because chimps have like little scrawny ass legs and then most of their body is arms and gut. So like I don't know. It's hard to say definitively like what's what when it comes to that sort of stuff. So my response to that would be like, could it be possible that the human chimps sort of evolved away from the other chimps that were, not eating the same mushrooms that we were or, like we're in a different area or something like that. Like it could have been, and like this gets into like Pangea too. Like I don't know enough about Pangea and the history of that and how that all worked. And its legitimacy it seems like it's like foundational science, but I don't know enough about it to know, like, it could have been certain chimps in a certain area ate a certain thing and that accelerated evolution in their brain, and that, over a course of 3,000 years changed the whole trajectory of their evolution. And then, it opened up a whole new opportunity, and then they just like reproduce. And then like, I don't know.
That's what I mean, right? So that's where I have issues with, like, now I'm cool with if someone wants to believe like, oh, there was, let's say, the Big Bang, all these atomic particle things, and just created all these different species. And there was, if that's what someone wants to believe, right? There was one that created the ape and one that's created human, and the makeup's very similar, and they created. But my thing is like, because the process of evolution just is evolution. So like, for instance, a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That is its evolutionary process, right? Like,
and those are like very different things.
Right, like exactly.
A little bug into a flying thing is like, what?
Right, it's crazy. And so my thing is, okay, if that's the case, that should still, if that happens, because that is that caterpillar's makeup. Like you said, it's a completely different thing, but that is its evolutionary makeup.
Yeah.
If humans were chimps' evolutionary makeup, that we would still it would still happen. Right. Like I get what you're saying, like, oh, maybe it got sped up for some and it slowed down for others, but like we don't, like, that doesn't, like, that process, it can't, like, it would still be happening, but it's not. So that's where I'm like, I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, that's a tough, but also like it's unbelievably hard to see that, because it doesn't happen in a lifetime. It happens over a course of like 10, 20 lifetimes to even see, like,
but that's right. But that's what I'm saying. So keep what we're saying, right? Like, we're saying that the evolution of, like I said, and to become more civil. So like I said, this is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, right? That maybe even millions. But if that's the case, even like I said, if that was a trajectory, the thing would be dying off, right? The thing that you're evolutionary from, like I said, doesn't happen. I'm not saying that, oh, I would have a baby monkey and by, in 20 years, it's going to be a human, right? Like, obviously not. I'm saying, like, over those hundreds of thousands of years, it would have to.
So you're saying if we evolved from chimps, then chimps should be extinct?
Yeah, that process would have had to stop at some point, or like the caterpillar to the butterfly, would have compressed itself so quickly that we would be able to see it like that. Like, you still have some left over of this, but then you immediately become that, because that is your evolutionary process.
Yeah.
To me, the fact that it had all those hundreds of thousands of years and that's still there is like, well, that doesn't make sense to me.
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, here's one thing. Darwin's one thing that I know, Darwin's theory has been pushed, and like that's good. Like, that's what science is for. Like, it should be pushed and stretched, to its truest form. But I think that theory was jumped on not prematurely, but it's been pushed beyond its scope. And so like this, this is an argument that I think combats it and sort of puts it back into its place, because it doesn't exactly solve that quandary when it comes to evolution. And I don't know what the
I'm wondering, I could see how, right, if I have a limited experience and understanding, like Darwin had, right, just because of the amount of tools and research and some of the things we know, it makes sense to me. Like I said, we know for a fact that humans 500,000 years ago were like 10 times hairier than they are now, right? And that, you know what I'm saying, like, because of like like I said, when you don't have shelter, your body's adapting, so you're growing longer hair. We didn't have the beauty standards and things, so you're not shaving for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not shedding that, and you need it actually to survive. Like, why do like wolves in the Arctic, like, they got all that fur because you need it to survive, right? Versus you take that same dog to Africa and he's gonna lose some of that because he needs to open up for heat, right? So like, to me, that makes, so I could see him just be like, oh, these two things are so similar. That thing may have came from that thing. But like I said, to me, okay, cool, I'm fine with that original hypothesis. But over those hundreds of thousands of years, that thing, because if you're telling me that, you're saying like that is its evolutionary makeup, just like the caterpillar. This caterpillar will become a butterfly. Now that may take like whatever it is, but its evolutionary makeup is to evolve into this thing.
Yeah.
But as soon as that's not happening, so I don't, like, that's where I'm like, oh, I don't know, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a difficult, I don't, maybe no one has the answer to that. I don't.
Here's my thing, I guess. I know obviously faith-based theories, or pretty much of all religions, is that, hey, you're created, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool. And that's probably the camp I fall into in general. And two things can be very similar, especially if it has the same creator. That makes sense to me. I don't know why, if I'm on the evolutionary side and I believe in not necessarily a creator, but a catastrophic event that created these things, why your hypothesis wouldn't be the same as the religious face, where it's like, oh no, like, yes, this big thing happened, all this different particles and stuff morphed and they started to evolve. That makes sense. Well, if this one has just 1% different than this one, they can be very similar, but they're two separate things. I don't know why the thought process was, no, it had to have been, because the thought process behind evolution is that, hey, no, it evolved from this one thing.
And I'm pretty sure that like the Latin species name for humans is the same as it is for chimps. So that would indicate that like the science is saying
the same
are the same. Whereas it doesn't, it would make more sense, and I don't know if that's true. I could be wrong on that. It would make more sense that we were just like there's lions and then there's leopards. So they're pretty close, giant cat things, but they're not exactly the same. And so
that's what I mean. One chromosome can
chimp, and then whatever the hell we are,
right?
And just over the course, like we, whatever, had the capacity.
Yeah, to me that makes more sense, and I would be able to 100% get on board with that, because like, to me that makes sense, because also because what we know about DNA and genome structure in general, that a single cell chromosome different can drastically change the outcome of something. Right. And so to me, like I said, that makes sense to me. And I feel like that argument would have made sense and it would all kind of align. I don't know why they doubled down on, no, that's not the case. We just evolved from this one thing. Like I said, because like you said, we have in the same world, right, all these things that are very similar, but it's just slightly, like even birds, right? Like, you're all birds, obviously. Like, no, it's just one bird. It's like, well, no, a robin doesn't turn into a fucking hawk or eagle. They're different things. They're just so similar in all these areas except for this one. And it's like, okay, so they're different.
Yeah.
which that makes sense to me, right? That's like very easy to rationalize.
Well, and that's why like robins don't have the same eyesight that hawks do. And like it's because they eat fucking leaves and berries and shit and dirt, whatever, worms, you know what I mean? Dirt. But like, so they don't have the need for it. So it doesn't. And if robins that,
which makes sense to what you were saying about Pangea, right?
I'm because not 100% convinced that if I don't know, I feel like it's possible that part of a species in one area could evolve and you know, like, could lions and leopards have come from the like Siberian cat or whatever, like that giant, you know what I mean? Could I don't know the science well enough to say like maybe, you know, they could share the same ancestry in the same way that like dogs ancestry is wolves, but now we have like 1,000 different breeds of dog.
Well, right, but here's the difference between that, right? Is that an actual thing, or is that a human's rationality and reason of it? Because remember, we create that tree. That's what I'm saying. Something's chemical makeup, we look for commonalities and say these are from the same tree. They all originated from this one, which I know there's flaws in because there's just things on this planet that don't exist anymore for us to even say where it really came from. But we're looking in our rational brain for the common factors and saying, oh, like for instance, people say like the zebra is actually in it's like it's in the giraffe family or something, like it's like genome is like over there, not and like the horse's side, and it's like, well, why? Because it kind of looks like a horse, but it's like, oh, because it has this thing, and we relate that to like it coming from like for over here from like the same, like, you see what I'm saying? Was that our rationalization of from it because we're looking at the commonality?
Time guy, what's the Land Before Time long neck?
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I know you're talking about
Dory or something. Doo-doo.
Something like that. He's a doo-doo. Now, what does make sense to me is, like you were saying, especially in Pangea, to have something very similar, for them to their natural selection be very different, right? So yes, we can have a robin's makeup and a eagle's makeup. They are two separate, because that has to be true. If it has one genetic makeup different, it has to be, they're different things, right? So it's okay, they're two separate things, even though they're very similar. So they both got wings and can fly and have feathers and all this stuff. This robin was over here in this part of Pangea where maybe there wasn't meat, or it was there and there was some leaves and it ate it. So that's what it started eating on. That makes sense to me. And the eagle was on this side and there was a lack of that. And it's like,
but there was like mouse and rats and stuff all over the place.
Right. And so I'm just going to eat that, right? Those two things make sense to me. But to me, like where I have like I said, where I would find it hard to believe is like, no, that robin is that thing. Like that robin is that eagle. And he evolved into that just because he was on this side doesn't make sense, because like, okay, he should still be an eagle then. The robin should be an eagle too. He just has different preferences then. Like I like, you see what I'm saying?
But over the course of a millennia, like what if a particular part of the world got, like, let's say an ice age, and like all the living things died, but there was still like not all, but the things that this creature ate died.
Yep.
But were not as prevalent, so it had to start eating berries and shit, and so it started.
Yes, I believe that, right? So that changes its natural selection, but not its genetic makeup. Like we know more about the human body now. There's just things that are genetic we cannot do. Like so we don't have the genetic capacity, for instance, to fly. Like it doesn't matter what conditions you put a human under, that human being, we do not have the genetic makeup to like to fly, right?
But we do have the genetic makeup to like be able to swing from trees all day long.
Yeah, because we have the ability to grasp things, right? So that's what I mean. So anything that can grasp limbs.
But I'm saying, like, couldn't we also, like, if we, for what, I don't know how this would happen, but if there was some, like, tribe that just decided we're going to try to go back to being chimps, and then for 100,000 years just straight was in the jungle swinging through trees all day, like, would there not be some microevolution that occurs that pushes them towards, like, shorter legs, bigger, stronger arms, and upper shoulders?
Right. No, I agree with what you're saying, right? So I even look at that on a smaller point between races, right? Where they say, well, why is it that, blacks just seem to be bigger, stronger, faster? Well, because for generations, like we said about the lazy thing, you decided we're going to have them do the work. And so yeah, I get bigger, stronger, like for survival for the work that I'm doing. And so my baby comes out jacked and yours is lazy as fuck because he doesn't do anything, right? Like my baby faster than your baby because y'all don't do anything, right? Like that makes sense to me. But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't change the like that doesn't.
Well, but also even more to your point is, like, Africa has been, they are even to this day, like, still very tribal, and like have been how would I say it? Like, much more active. That there hasn't been the huge leaps in civilization where, like, there's massive cities and things like that, where you see that in, like, Europe, whereas not so much in Africa. So, like, there's been more of a necessity to stay ready, stay physically ready, because you don't have a mansion in France or England or wherever where, like, your ass can just lay around. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's an option.
And so that's my thing. So what you're saying is, I do believe that some people could say, hey, we're going to stay in the trees and we're going to swing and stuff, but that doesn't change your genetic makeup. It just means that you're going to be big, like you're going to have those abilities because of natural selection for that. If we're going to do that, and that's what we're doing, and I'm jumping from this tree to this tree, well, you better develop strong legs to jump or you're going to fall, break yourself, and you're dead, right? So, but that human's still a human. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, if I take two caterpillars, I put one in the desert and one over here, and like put one in water, like, they're all going to still turn into a butterfly because that's its genetic makeup. Now, one may learn how to swim. One may learn how to survive with less food. One may like X, Y, and Z, but they're also going to turn into a butterfly. Like I said, your natural selection 100%, but that shouldn't change the possibility of your genetic structure, right? Like I said, because the case then should be, I should just be like, okay, we want to fly, put humans in a situation where you, like, in birds have been flying, right? Like, as far as like, well, what environment do we put ourselves in so we can evolutionize it? It's like there isn't one. We don't have our genome structure doesn't have the possibility for that thing.
Yeah.
Like we just don't have it, right? Like that, its genetic makeup is tapped out. So like, you can get faster, and you may be able to, I believe we could probably even glide longer on your way to kasplatting and breaking all your bones, but like you just don't have like the genetic structure for it.
Yeah. That's
because
fascinating.
The other thing, right? If we just take that hypothesis for what it is, wouldn't everything be evolutionizing towards being a human anyway? So the ape wouldn't be the only thing, right? Because as humans start to build, hunt, gather, pillage, and destroy everything else around it, right? Because that's what we do, right? And we kill, and like out of protection or shelter or food or whatever. Well, then everything should be reacting to that and realizing, hey, we all just need to adapt and evolutionize to this thing because this thing is the shit, apparently. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that could be, I could see something, but you don't have the genetics, like a butterfly also doesn't have the genetic makeup to become a human. Like doesn't literally have the pieces. Like I can't tell you build a skyscraper, but give you sand, right? You need wood and, you know what I'm saying? Like you need, like you don't have the pieces. It doesn't matter what conditions I put you under. The sand is not, it's like it doesn't have the makeup to be that.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's a really solid objection to that aspect of evolution.
And I just don't, like I said, I'm cool. I don't think it needs to be, you have to believe in a creator either. Like I said, I'm even fine with the event that, hey, there was this and all these particles and they jammed up. It's like, cool, that would make sense. But then everything should still be towards that one thing, right? That,
yeah,
that didn't happen.
Yeah, for sure. That's you know, I don't know what I sort of, I mentioned this before, but I'm not, I probably fall into the
because like look at the anaconda, right? The largest snake. I mean, it'll swallow an alligator whole, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, but that's the stretch of its genetic makeup. Now we can have a little gardener snake, and you can have a thing that like literally swallows alligators whole. They're the same, like they have different preferences. They're not as big, and they don't eat preferences, and they're, you know, how low they hunt and how they survive are different because of the situations that they were in, and so survival, natural selection. But like, but that's its genetic makeup. Like it's never going to be anything more than a snake. Now it can become a huge ass snake that eats this, and this one swims in the water. But that's just because this snake was over here where all the water was, and to survive, they had to adapt over there, and this one can't get in the water at all. You see what I'm saying? Like, but
yeah,
like,
but I feel like couldn't that? It's hard to. I don't know the technicalities of like genomes and how the like species, you know, label and how those work exactly. I mean, like I know that everything has a species name that you know we've given to it, but like I don't know how, you know, and maybe I'm wrong. Like I'm about to look it up. If our genome is different, okay. So okay, so it's the I think we're based on just what that quick Google, it sounds like what we are like leaning towards is actually what the science is. So like they consider chimps, we share like 99 point something percent genetic makeup with them, but obviously not 100. It's not a fully. So they are technically a different species than we are.
right.
So it's the closest. What's it say? So while the genetic difference between individual humans today is minuscule, about 0.1% on average, a study of the same aspects of the chimpanzee genome indicates a difference of about 1.2%. The bonobo, Pan-Paniscus, which is the close cousin of chimpanzees, Pan troglodyte, differs from humans to the same degree. So there's like it's like the snake example that you made, or like the lion to the leopard. It's you know, they share almost all, but not exact. So it's technically a different genetic makeup and therefore a different species. So I think that proves that what you've been saying is correct. Is like we're we are a different thing that had a different potential for evolution and the ability to get to the, you know, position we are now.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just like, you know, it'd be like comparing a lion to a leopard or a snake to, you know.
Okay, so you're saying that what you look at as the science is, yes, humans and like humans didn't come from chimp. We're two different things, and I'm sure at one point, most like the beginning, we looked very, very similar, almost physically for survival. Now but our potential is different. We've adapted past it and don't need to even look anything close like that. Not that we came from that thing. That makes sense. I can get behind that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, and that just, you know, like I said, a fucking basic ass Google search, that seems to be so it's not that we were chimps. It's that we were similar to chimps.
Right.
And evolved past them.
Or that makes sense to me.
Evolved more.
Just like a caterpillar and a worm are almost very similar at that point, but like I said, the caterpillar has a genetic makeup and potential for something way higher, and the worm doesn't, and so the worm's still a fucking worm.
Yeah.
Which is
for sure. Wow. Well, we solved one of the world's hot button problems there.
That's super interesting. You know what the other thing that I think is sad, interesting, you know, when we started, as intelligent as we are, I know we're missing so much, because the most intelligent individual to me can't be anyone from the 21st or 20th century. The most intelligent person to me has to be like, and we see this even back in like ancient Egypt and stuff, and like different times, like where they were like writing down, and like, you know, they knew certain things, they were writing it down, but then they couldn't store it, right? And so this is why we even see like cave drawings. You'd write something down in a cave, but then you have to leave, you can't take it with you, and so that knowledge is lost, right? Like, and if you die on the way, whatever you discovered is like gone. You know what I'm saying? Like all the shit that we discovered, that's just gone.
There's
washed away.
There's a oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. Hold on. There's a guy that studies these ancient civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
I think another British guy. Hold on. He was on a Joe Rogan podcast. He's fascinating, dude. He's wrote a bunch of books on these lost civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, come on. Graham Hancock is his name. Fingerprints of the Gods is one. Magician of the Gods is another. He's got a bunch of, but you should watch he's on Joe Rogan podcast. It's fascinating, but he studies these like ancient civilizations that just like either vanished or there's like no history of it. And he talked about one that was in that they estimate that it was like 8,000 years ago in what's the huge jungle in Brazil? The Amazon.
Yep.
That there was a massive civilization there that, for whatever reason, I forget why, like an ice age or like or a comet or some like ridiculous reason, just got like destroyed off the face of the earth, and there's no record of it, or like it's very difficult to see any record of it, and or find any history of it. And so he goes into the details of like what it may have looked like and what they did, and you know, the sort of religions that they had and how they, you know, different inventions that they made and things like that. It's really like fascinating. But the books the podcast is great, but the books go into even more detail. I've only listened to one of them. I think he's got several. But yeah, that's like it's it's mind-boggling to think of all of the things. Like there's so much that was lost just from like Egyptian civilization and like the advancements in technology and things that they made that sort of disappeared. And there's plenty of like, I know, for a long time there was people in Asian throughout Asian history, and there's ancient Asian civilizations that like attempted to like go to the moon and shit. Like there was and everything in between, like so many different advancements that just fell through the cracks because there wasn't documentation or
the way to even necessarily tell you about it if I don't know.
There wasn't the connection between cultures to pass it on.
Right.
And so it just died with.
So like, are we really advanced right now, or are we fucking behind? However fucking years.
Yeah. Well, and it is foolish to think that we are smarter than our ancestors. Like, yeah, maybe we have like these cool things, but there was the capacity for like intelligence hasn't really changed that much. It's
right.
not.
Well, my thing is like they had more time to logic and reason. Like,
yeah,
when you start out and there's not like you have to figure everything. You know what I'm saying? Like the critical thinking that takes into develop and like now we're so busy. Like we don't do like we were just talking about earlier. People don't.
And I also think personally, I think at least in the West, I think that our heavy reliance on science has been a disservice to our cognitive ability, to just like straight like IQ and common sense. Whereas I think in the past and from what I've studied through history is like and this is a generalization because like some things never change. Like a lot of people, many things don't change. And so there's always been people that are like this, but the appreciation for the metaphysical, I think, is like almost gone today.
Right.
And people don't even know how to no one even says metaphysical. No one even says meta unless you're talking about like a video game.
Right.
But the idea of something being metaphysical I think was like one of the most important discoveries of humanity that like Plato and Aristotle talked about, but I think science crept in and sort of took the place of that, where people now rely so heavily on science that you miss the other half if you don't take science and metaphysical. Like, metaphysical is just like spirit or essence or like there is something.
The transfer of that, yeah.
There is like an energy that like there's more than just what you can touch.
Right.
So then that is what makes up the metaphysical. And so that, whatever you want to call it, God, Holy Spirit, or just the essence or energy or whatever, karma, whatever that thing is, like it is just as important as science and should not be taken lightly and needs to be considered in the same way that science is considered. And so that is some, and so like ancient peoples, they didn't have science like we do now. And so automatically they probably took the science for granted. But maybe there's some indications that some of these civilizations had like not science to the degree that we do today, but were working towards that and had a balance and recognized a balance, but it sort of, because of any myriad of reasons fell through the cracks and didn't get passed on, which is just like mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, I look at something even. I'm picking a simple one, but like you look at like, remember like the Nile River and how they like set up the city there. But remember, they basically made like a super traffic highway, but for like from the river to like fill their like little like crop farmlands. Like,
Yeah,
even that like is like, I know that seems simple to us now, but like the
pyramids are
yeah.
also a great example of that. Like, how the frick did they put
still have no idea.
together? They got these, like 10,000 pound blocks of rock stacked 500 feet high. Like, how in the world did they do? Like, I mean, it's that with whatever technology they had then. I mean, it's
gone. Like, we don't even know what it is.
Yeah, like walk an elephant up there or something. I mean, like, I don't even know.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, but like that's what I'm saying. To like see, like I see a body of water, and I don't think, oh, cool. Let's just like I know that seems like it's such a simple thing. Like, oh yeah, we need like, but like you see this body of water that's miles away from like where y'all may have set up shop, and you're like, we can't grow crops over here. It's too dry, and so we're gonna dig.
Yeah, I'll just bring it over here.
Yeah, like, but dig large enough so that this thing's like real, like, and how you dug it, and like it's just like
to not drown.
That's what I'm. That's
digging.
right. Exactly. Yeah. That's my point. Yeah, like to keep the water. That like it's like I don't people like yeah. I mean, you need tools for that shit. Like
yeah. So basically, probably the point of today is that we are capable of way more than we think.
Come here, son. I know it's ridiculous. So I think about that a lot sometimes. Like, are we ahead or are we
yeah, or are we way behind?
What I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure. Oh, look at him. Hi, buddy.
Say hi, Owen.
Sid.
Say hi.
Hi.
Is that funny?
Awesome. So yeah, the point, I think the message of today is we don't hate on your ancestors. There's a lot. There's a lot that got us to where we are today. So like appreciate it and value that, because
what's interesting that I just thought of, like to attack on what you were saying. There's the story in the Bible about the Tower of Babel or whatever.
Babel, yeah.
And it talks about how they were creating basically a structure to get to the heavens.
Yeah.
And it's basically God's like, no. And
I can like say what you want to say, and then I'll give you my interpretation of that story, and then we'll go.
Yeah. So like basically it was like, no, scrambles their speech so that they can't communicate to complete the project. So here's what I'm thinking. Like, this is where my mind takes it. We obviously now have huge skyscrapers, and ain't nobody done scrambled nothing. So I'm like, were they literally close enough to creating something very large, like similar to a skyscraper, which would, like, without the tools that we have now, is like, even if it is the same size of a skyscraper, it's just like ridiculous. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just fascinating to me. The fact that someone was even able to take on a project like that.
Yeah. So my interpretation, I don't take that literally, that story. I think that it's more of a warning against like becoming too, it's a not a warning, it is a interpretation of the structure of reality. And that reality is, well, let's think about it in modern times. And this is an instance where I think we got it wrong, and often get it wrong in the United States. Back in 2008, when the stock market crashed because thousands or maybe millions of idiots like were redistributing or regrouping bad loans and then selling them as though they were great loans. And so all of this is like there's an infinite number of reasons why all of this sort of fell apart. But so they would regroup these trash loans and then sell them as, AAA loans and then the rating agencies, which are supposed to be governed or regulated and like do their job by the government, they didn't do their job. And so all the way down, people messed up. And so the result of that was the whole market crashed. Bunch of people, tons of people lost their jobs, lost houses, lost income, lost 401k, lost retirement, pension, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the narrative at that time was that some of these things were like Ford and the automobile companies and all that, too big to fail. That was the messaging. That was the narrative. Too big to fail. Well, to me, I think the story of the Tower of Babel is too big must fail. I think that is the message, the moral of the story is that when any enterprise comes together and tries to get to a point where it's all encompassing, it isn't even a choice. It has to fail. Like it's just too complex of a system to actually be successful. And so like I'm saying, there's a whole, there's probably 100 things that contributed to the crash, and I mentioned 3 or 4 or 5 of them. You know what I mean? So like all of those things fit within a system that is, like more enormous than we can comprehend.
Right.
And so I think the Tower of Babel story is like, yes, it may be possible to reach some pinnacle of, people talk about that with like the United States could be considered a Tower of Babel type situation where like there are people that believe that this is some like second chosen land or whatever.
Right.
That's not true at all. But the reason it's not true is because this is we have gotten to be so successful that we've blinded ourselves to the faults and the errors and the things that we are actually that aren't good, that are like tearing. And now they're like I said before, I feel like we're busting at the seams. Like the cracks are starting to show, and they're huge cracks. And so in the same way that this isn't just the United States, there's every civilization throughout history has done this, where you it's even down to like there's certain numbers, like 300 years is about the cap. Like for Rome, it was 300 years of republic and then empire after that, or maybe 200. You know what I mean? It's like in that ballpark. And so same thing here. We've had, 200, almost 300 years of republic, democratic republic, and it's busting at the seams. And, who knows what the future holds, but I hope it doesn't, fall apart into what, like Rome fell into. But I think the messaging of that Tower of Babel is we're like approaching heaven in terms of our society, right? Some people, and for some people, it's like it can't get any better. You have everything you ever wanted. You have more money. You can pass it on to your family, and your family's straight for however long you want them.
Mm-hmm.
You just have, Bezos has so much money. I'm sure he could just pass on. He could put 25% of his stocks to just like his future children, and they're straight for life. Excuse me. So to me, that's the reaching heaven part, is where you have everything that you could ever need.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we approach that, God, or the structure of reality, or the way that the world works, is you're not going to be able to bring in the utopia, usher in the utopia, which is one of the, like, that was one thing that our founding fathers, I think, like, they were keenly aware of the fact that is fugazi. I mean, they took into account human nature and how people are, and tried to combat that, work against that. But human nature is still winning. You know what I mean? Like, there's still unbelievable amounts of corruption, and like over time, it's eventually broke down.
Right.
Despite, the American dream and the tremendous amount of success and wealth and all that we have here, which to some people can be an indication of like, oh, this is great, this is amazing, this is like heaven, compared to, Venezuela. But eventually it falls apart. And I think, and so that's when I read that story, which I forget like a month ago, I read that again. I don't know why I was thinking about that, but I read that Tower of Babel story. And so that's sort of my interpretation of what that story means.
I like it. You like it?
He like it.
Say hi.
Hi. All right,
brother.
let's get going. This is a good one, dude.
Yes, sir.
Went in. See you, baby booey.
Bye-bye.
All right, bro. Have a good weekend. Peace.